Let me know what's that. Okay. Good evening. I will call this meeting to order. Sorry. Okay, good morning. Good evening, rather. Sorry, long day. I'd like to call this meeting to order. My name is Craig Slutskin. I am the president of Community Education Council 2. I'm going to call this calendar meeting to order. Before we go on to the roll call, I'm going to ask the interpreters, do you want to come up and say what you need to say for your folks?
Buenas tardes. Si alguien necesita interpretación en español, por favor que pase a la mesa de atrás para que nos demos los auriculares y les podamos dar traducción simultánea en español. Gracias.
Hi, the following announcement will be in Mandarin. 如果你需要国语的翻译的话，你可以在后面拿机器。那如果你用完机器之后呢，希望你可以把机器还给我们，谢谢。
Thank you. So I'm going to ask our Vice President, Leonard Silverman, to take roll call.
Thank you. Pre-vote Barai.
Here.
Allison Bowen.
Here.
Danielle Everov.
Here.
Gavin Healy.
Here.
Charles Love.
Here.
Lord Marin.
Here.
Sonal Patel. Jessica Savage. Sarah Shak Ehrenberg. Sabina Serenese. Leonard Silverman, I'm here. Craig Slutskin. Our student members, Lila Jason. Here, tend to come a little late to the class. Alexandra Stillman. Put a little quotation. Have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm now going to turn this meeting over for a few moments to a special guest, Jesse Mojica, who is the Deputy Director of FACE, DOE Office of Family and Community Engagement. Jesse's going to be reading the meeting norms tonight. Jesse?
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, council members, and thank you for having us at this meeting. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse Mojica. I am the Deputy Executive Director of the Office of Family and Community Empowerment. Before we begin today's council meeting, I would like to address a couple of important points to ensure a respectful and productive session this evening. I'd like to thank the council for this opportunity. Firstly, I kindly ask all members of the audience and council to maintain decorum throughout the meeting. This includes refraining from interrupting speakers and fellow council members by shouting or yelling as they're trying to speak. These actions interrupt the meeting and interferes with the council's ability to conduct business and impede speakers' opportunity to be heard. Additionally, the safety of everyone in attendance is paramount, and as such, safety agents are on hand to support. Secondly, while the council's meetings are subject to open meetings law, which promotes transparency and public participation, we must also respect and safeguard the privacy of our student participants. Therefore, while legally you are allowed to record today's meeting, we humbly request that you refrain from recording or photographing students during the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding. We now turn it over to the meeting chair to begin. Thank you once again.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jesse. So before we move on to the next item on the agenda, I just want to talk about an issue that came up at the last meeting. There were some questions on attendance, absences, excusals, and the rules surrounding those items in our bylaws. Since the last meeting, several council members have made inquiries about this subject, and I went and took a look and audited the records. So we can deal with this expeditiously. I would like to entertain a motion to add council attendance to the calendar meeting agenda and deal with it at this time. Would someone like to make a motion? Barai. Would somebody like to second?
I second it.
Motion is seconded by Lord Marin. Let's take it to a vote. Lynn?
This is a motion to.
Sorry, before we vote, is there any discussion? Sorry, I apologize. Okay.
So this is a motion to add. Where did you want to come back? Okay. So we're going to take a vote. If you're in favor, say yes. If you're no, say no. If you're saying pre-vote for it. Allison Bowen.
Yes.
Daniela Ergelov,
Yes.
Gavin Healy, Charles Love,
Yes.
Maud Marin,
Yes.
Saul Patel is not here, Jessica Savage, Sarah's not here, Sabina's not here, I say yes, right?
Yes.
Student members.
The motion passes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to nothing.
So, okay, let's first deal with our last calendar meeting in February. At that meeting, we noted the absences of council members Bowen, Marin, and Sarah Neese. Under Chancellor's Regulation D-140, Section 9, council members may deliver a request for an excusal in writing no later than 15 days after an absence, and at that time, the council can decide via vote whether to approve. Council members Bowen for work commitment, Marin for illness, and Sarah Neese for illness, each to deliver such a request for an excusal within 15 days. As such, I will entertain a motion to approve each of their requests for excusal from the February 26, 2025 CEC2 meetings. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Danielle Egorov made the motion. Here, a second. Len Silverman, second. Is there any discussion? Gavin Healy.
So we are, so we're talking about people who are absent in February, correct? Last meeting?
That's what we're doing right now.
And we are entertaining a motion after the fact. So we're talking about after the fact, people submitting excused absences.
Correct.
And what is, and I don't believe there's anything in our bylaws that says that people can submit.
In Chancellor's Regulation D-140, which supersedes our bylaws,
Okay,
it does.
okay. So I assume we're going to talk about the absences up through December 18th, 2024, of which there are 3, and of which under Chancellor's Regulation D-140 and New York State Education Law 2590C, after 3 unexcused absences, and we have approved those minutes, those council members have vacated their seats.
We will be discussing each of those absences after this motion. Are there any other items to discuss?
I move to table discussion, call for a vote.
We have to take a vote for that. Okay, and we'll take a vote.
So this is a motion. Explain what the motion is.
Okay, so the motion is for the February 26, 2025 meetings, accept excusals for Councilmember Marin, Councilmember Sarah Neese, and Councilmember Bowen. If to find their excusals I noted.
Preet Boprai, Allison Bowen, Daniela Ergelov,
Yes.
Gavin Healy, Charles Love,
Yes.
Maud Marin,
Yes.
Saul Patel is not here, Jessica Savage. Sarah's not here, Sabina's not here, I say yes, Craig,
Yes.
and our student members are not here. So the motion passes by a vote of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 to 0 with 2 abstentions.
Next, we're going to move to the January 15th calendar and working business meetings. Note that we had published the draft minutes, but they have not been approved. The minutes had an error on them. Councilmember Marin did indeed inform me that her child was ill, and as such, I noted at the meeting this would be an excusal. While the minutes reflected no excusal, the recording of the meeting clearly has me saying this would be an excusal at 24 minutes in. So if you look at the recording, while we have not approved these minutes, and we will look at that later tonight, I will entertain a motion to amend the draft minutes to reflect that Councilmember Marin was excused tonight. Can I hear a motion for that? Councilmember Bowen makes a motion. Can I hear a second? That was Councilmember Egorov. Any discussion? Take it to a vote. We are going, the motion is to amend January 15th unapproved minutes, which we'll look at later, to reflect that Councilmember Marin was in fact excused.
Preet Boprai, Allison Bowen, Daniela Ergelov,
Yes.
Gavin Healy, Charles Love,
Yes.
Maud Marin,
Yes.
Saul Patel is not here, Jessica Savage. Sarah's not here, Sabina's not here, I say yes, Craig,
Yes.
motion passes by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, by 7, nothing with 2 abstentions. Oh, and our student members are not present.
Next, we must move to the December 18th, 2024 calendar and working business meetings. Note that the minutes, which have been approved, stated that Councilmember Egorov was absent. However, this was an error that we did not catch. She did inform me that her child was ill in writing, and you can clearly hear me state at 5 minutes and 50 seconds into the recording, this was an excusal. Under Robert's rules, a body can amend something previously adopted at section 35 by having a motion to amend and approving with a majority of the entire body, which would be 7. As such, I will entertain a motion to amend the previously adopted minutes from December 18th, 2024 meeting to reflect an excusal for Councilmember Egorov.
I'll make that motion.
Councilmember Bowen makes the motion. Councilmember Marin seconds it. Can we have discussion? Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So it's interesting that you're citing Robert's rules, saying that we can amend something that we passed before, because that it makes me think back to our June 12th, 2024 meeting at the Clinton School, where there was this hullabaloo about, we can't amend resolution 248, we can't rescind it because it's in the past, and what's past is past, what's gone is gone. But now I guess we can amend this because this is, important to you or whatnot. But I mean, there's a pretty clear procedure for minutes. We vote on minutes at the following meeting, if we have quorum, which we didn't have quorum in January, February. And there were plenty of chances for people to object to the minutes. I mean, basically, the fact is that, the most important, the very first thing that you should do as a CEC member is just show up to the damn meeting. And I don't know why that's so hard for people. But, I feel like we should be, maybe a little bit more honest, a little bit more above board with the community, and just a little bit more respectful of this office. People, there's other people who want to serve. There's other people who want to be here advocating for their students. And we should give people who are ready and able to advocate for those students a chance to advocate for them. And they don't when there are, people who are not really fulfilling their obligations here.
Any other comments? Okay, let's take it to a vote.
So you can vote yes, no, or abstain. Now, pre-vote for Allison Bowen,
Yes.
Danielle Ergarel,
Yes.
Gavin Healy,
No.
Charles Love,
Yes.
Maud Marin,
Yes.
Sonal's not here, Jessica Savage. Sarah's not here, Sabina's not here, I vote yes, right?
Yes.
Our student members are not here. Motion passes by a vote of 7 in favor, 2 noes, and that's it.
Next, we're going to move to September 18th, 2024 calendar and working business meetings. Note that the minutes which were approved stated that Councilmember Egorov was absent. However, this was an error of mine that we did not catch. She did inform me that she was out of town on a work commitment in writing. As such, I will entertain a motion to amend the previously adopted minutes from September 18th, 2024 meetings to reflect an excusal for Councilmember Egorov.
I make the motion.
Councilmember Bowen, seconded by Councilmember Marin. Any discussion?
Yes, this is okay. So now we're talking about an absence that happened 6 months ago. Let me just say, my kid is a 7th grader, and I noticed on his Google Classroom that he has some missing assignments from like 3 weeks ago. And I said, hey, why don't you try to make those up? And he says, I can't, it's too late. They were not allowed to make them up, it's too late. That was 3 weeks ago. He's a 7th grader. We're talking about adults here. This is a meeting 6 months ago. Like, let's get serious, let's get real.
Any other comments? Take it to a vote.
Either vote yes, no, or abstain. Pre, Allison,
Yes.
Daniela, Gavin, Charles, Maud,
Yes.
Sonal's not here, Jessica's not. Oh, yeah, Jessica, you are. Sorry. Sabina, not here. I think yes. And Craig? And then our student members.
Last, we're going to go back to the first meeting of the term, July 12th, 2023, when we did not have a president yet. We had a president pro tem. We did not have a secretary. Council member Bowen requested an excusal for work commitments. The council did not yet have a president, as I noted. Unfortunately, we don't have the recording because that night we were getting into issues with the recording, getting the recording to start, so it didn't start well into the meeting. Councilmember Silverman was running the meeting that night as president pro tem, and I discussed with Councilmember Silverman, and his recollection is that he did, in fact, grant excusals. My inclination is to go with Councilmember Silverman's recollection, as his pattern was to grant excusals. I will personally apologize for this. However, my recollection, this is our first meeting. I was frantic trying to get everything to work. We didn't have an administrative assistant yet, so I apologize. As such, I'm going to entertain a motion to amend the previously adopted minutes from July 12th, 2023 to reflect an excusal for Councilmember Bowen. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Councilmember Egorov. Do I have a second? Councilmember Parai. Is there any discussion?
Yes, there's some discussion. So, so now we are going back to, you also didn't get the August 21st, 2024 meeting, so I just skipped over that one. Where Allison Bowen wasn't here. So we're talking about July 12th, 2023. This is nearly 2 years ago. Can you make up like a missed day of work from 2 years ago? Can you make up a missed assignment? I don't think you can. And okay, I remember that meeting very, very well because it was my first meeting as a member of this body. July 12th, 2023, we were at PS 41 in the West Village. And we did not have quorum. And before the meeting, Craig, Len, you tried to cancel the meeting because you said we did not have quorum. I had to actually talk to FACE and remind people that, well, actually under New York State education law, we need to have a meeting every single month, no matter what, whether we have quorum or not. And New York State education law also provides that whether we have quorum or not, we have a superintendent's presentation and we have an opportunity for the public to speak and ask questions. That's non-negotiable. That's under New York State Education Law 2590. It's not something that we can amend because of our bylaws, because New York State Education Law supersedes the chancellor's regulations and our bylaws. But basically, Len and Maud, you interpreted the bylaws and you said that we're not required or we're not even allowed to have public comment, even though there were members of the public asking to speak, asking for their rights under New York State Education Law 2590. And it's, we cannot, the 12 of us up here, or how many, or that night it was 6 of us up here, we cannot violate the principles of, or the provisions set down in New York State education law. We're not the state legislature. And all that you could tell me, Craig, after the fact was that you said, a senior official of the DOE told us that we were not supposed to have public comment, but you wouldn't tell me who the senior official of the DOE is. FACE says it wasn't them. I don't know, was it the chancellor? Was it the first deputy chancellor, Daniel Weisberg? So who is telling you that you're supposed to violate New York State education law? And that was my recollection of the July meeting. So maybe you can clarify that before we go on and vote about this little thing.
I'd like to comment on the meeting as well. That was the first meeting, and I remember during our orientation, which was during the weekend, that we were just told who was elected. We found out the plans for summer were made prior, like 2-3 months prior to knowing when the meeting will be in July, and it was that week that I was going to be away in another country for August as well, and I flew in for the August meeting and flew back out the next day. But for July, I made it clear that the plans for the summer were already made.
Yeah, I just want to, there's an absolute misrepresentation here, just so we're clear. Craig and I never suggested canceling the meeting or not holding the meeting. The issue was whether or not we would have a public speaking session. And I do want to add just one thing. There was approximately one person that signed up for the public speaking session, a former council member by the name of Tasha Doth, who was the only member who signed up. I had actually spoken to him that night. He had no issue with not being permitted to speak. But it doesn't matter because we're not here to debate whether or not we should have had or should not have had a public speaking session. The question is whether or not there was a valid reason for an excuse that was previously conveyed. And that's what this motion is for.
I just want to add one thing. You did actually send out an email canceling the meeting. It went out to everyone on the CECD2 mailing list.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify something. What we're talking about right now is whether or not there is actually, we're gonna go back and amend to make sure there's an excused absence based on somebody's recollection of what happened back then. I just wanna
Well,
understand.
no, I have it in writing from Allison's email, asking for you. I do have an email, I have it right.
You have an
Yeah.
email from them
Yeah.
asking for it.
Yes, I did. Any other comments? Let's take it to a vote.
Pre-Bobrow, Allison,
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Gavin, Charles,
Yes.
Maud,
Yes.
Donald's not here, Jessica. Sarah's not here, Sabina's not here, I say yes. Greg?
Yes.
And our student members are not here. So vote passes by a vote of 7 in favor with no opposed and 2 abstentions.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience, everybody. I think this does show how important the minutes and record keeping are. You know, we've had a couple of votes where people looked at me when I said, has everybody read the minutes? And people on both sides have given me sort of the look of, no, I have not, but I'll vote on it anyway. I think it emphasizes the importance of good record keeping and also each of us actually reading the minutes. Councilmember Egoroff, our administrative assistant Victor, and I will endeavor to keep much more clean and accurate records going forward, so there are no mistakes or ambiguities. So my apologies on that. So next up on the agenda is the presentation of resolutions. The first resolution is resolution 268. The resolution, well, before I go on to the resolutions, we went through all of these resolutions at the last meeting. We were not able to vote because at the time of the vote, we didn't have a quorum. I will ask, but people can do what they want, but I will ask, since we have gone through these resolutions already, to try to be brief so we can get through the meeting. I know there are a lot of people here who probably would like to speak, so I want to be sensitive to everyone's time. So the first resolution is resolution 268, a resolution calling on the New York City Department of Education to standardize rating rubrics across schools. Now I'll speak to that one. We spoke extensively on this last month, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. The purpose of this resolution is to highlight and urge the DOE to address a number of disparities among schools across the city in terms of ratings and how that's done. And in particular, the years that rating affects admissions, like the 7th grade. This is not to hamstring the teacher. It's not to say how grades are supposed to be done in science, for example, that they're supposed to be done the same way that you would do for Spanish class. That's nonsensical. When you have some schools adding points because it's an honors class and other schools at a different part of the city not doing that, there's an inequity. When you allow some schools to have retakes as part of their policy, not for IEP purposes, that's of course something very different and understandable, but just allowing students to retake a test if they don't do well, while other schools don't allow them to do that, there's an inequity. Of course, there's always going to be some differences. There are schools that are test-driven, there are schools that are project-driven. You can't have the exact same rubric for each school, but there should be some rules of engagement that schools can abide by to address these egregious differences. We received a number of emails in support of this resolution over the past 2 days from District 2 parents who are very concerned about this issue. We're moving on to resolution 269, resolution to affirm CEC2 support of NYCPS's guidelines to support transgender and gender expansive students and rescind resolution 248.
So Resolution 248 must be rescinded. And I will keep introducing a resolution to rescind it and keep speaking out against it until it's rescinded for as long as I'm on this council. Every month. And that's because resolution 248 was wrong in March 2024, and it's wrong now a year later. There's nothing neutral about it. There's nothing neutral about a review committee being convened to decide whether some kids can hold on to the rights they have or not. And it's not about safety. You don't need an evolutionary biologist on a committee, which is what resolution 248 asked for, to decide whether kids can safely play on a basketball field. After all this time, it's really amazing to me that this council does not realize the depth of harm it has caused trying to chip away at the rights of one group of already marginalized students. I know many of my fellow council members are sick of this. They want it to all go away. You know, wouldn't it be great if families of cisgender students and families of transgender students could all just come here and talk about grading rubrics and ELA curriculum and state math test scores and school lunches and fair student funding and all those things, and not about who gets to play on what team? Don't you think that all of these families that we represent want that? And don't you think that families of transgender students want those things that families of cisgender students want? And that people that they take for granted, that families of cisgender students take for granted that they can come here and talk about because they're not worried about their fundamental rights here. And they should be able to do that. We should all be able to do that. All we need to do as a council is just repeal resolution 248 and just let people speak. And that's all. Thank you.
Resolution 270, resolution in opposition to Donald Trump's executive order ending so-called radical indoctrination and in support of culturally responsive and sustainable education. Does anyone want to speak on that? Councilmember Hill.
So I think many of us are familiar with this executive order issued by the Trump administration on January 29th. It's called Ending Radical Indoctrination in K through 12 Public Schooling. Among other things, the executive order mandates bi-weekly lectures grounded in patriotic education principles, which shall be broadcast to the nation throughout 2026. Let's hope they don't fall on the third Wednesday of the month and conflict with these meetings, because I know that everyone wants to go home and watch them. It would be a shame for us to miss those state propaganda sessions. So more directly related to our CEC, the executive order seeks to eliminate all federal funding streams that directly or indirectly support discriminatory equity ideology in schools. Notably, the executive order defines discriminatory equity ideology to include, among other things, any ideology that the United States is fundamentally racist, sexist, or otherwise discriminatory. It raises issues about how or even if schools can offer instruction about America's history of slavery, the genocide of Native Americans, the suffrage movement, the civil rights movement, the Stonewall Uprising, and a lot more. It threatens the way we both teach history, it threatens the way we teach about contemporary society, it threatens the way we teach literature and art. You know, as someone who teaches history, has a PhD in history, has a number of peer-reviewed articles published in the field of history. Plus, I'm sorry, I don't mean to boast, but a forthcoming history book from Cornell University Press. Thank you. I feel qualified to call myself an expert in historical research and the teaching of history. The executive order grossly mischaracterizes history education, alleging educational malpractice. Teachers supposedly, and this I quote from the executive order, are imprinting anti-American, subversive, harmful, false ideologies on our nation's children. Have you seen what our teachers' days look like? They're really busy. I don't know how they have time for that. The order uses this caricature, and it really is a caricature, to justify sweeping and unprecedented federal interventions in public education. And that's what these are. These are really sweeping federal interventions in public education. This is the federal government telling New York State and New York City what it can and can't do. The executive order not only disregards the training, ethics, and lifelong work of history teachers, it also demeans our students by assuming that patriotism can be inspired only by triumphal stories and that our students are incapable of forming complex opinions. The executive order's sweeping claims of radical indoctrination are almost entirely unmoored from the reality of education in our classrooms. The American Historical Association, I'm a member, by the way, has condemned the executive order and its narrow conception of patriotism, as well it should. And so, and the cudgel that the Trump administration is using is to prevent schools from teaching about racism and bias, and to implement this system of so-called patriotic education is the elimination of federal funding. Now, I know that only about 5% of New York City's educational budget comes from federal funds, but those funds are targeted at very specific initiatives that impact our most vulnerable students. That includes Title I funds, Title I Part A funding, about $700 million that supports schools with serving large numbers of low-income students specifically. It also includes the New York City's Universal Free Meal Program, which provides free breakfast, lunch, and summer meals to close to 1 million students. This is another critical anti-poverty initiative that is essentially being held hostage to a conception of what is history. And there's a lot more. So I think as a city and as a school system, we can have debates about what we're going to teach in the classroom. But we shouldn't be forced under threat to our most vulnerable students to impose a curriculum on our schools. We can talk about the social studies curriculum, but the attempt by the federal government to mandate a very narrow, flattened view of history teaching in local schools is authoritarian overreach. And I think as a council, we should speak out against that. Thank you.
Thank you. No program presentations this evening. So we'll go to the first public speaker session. We will give each person 2 minutes to speak. If you have not signed up, please sign up. Victor has a sheet. Victor, can I have the... And while I appreciate, I know a lot of people want to speak tonight, and that's fine, and I'll accept it for this meeting. But going forward, I think we really do need to have everyone sign our speaker sign-up sheet, the official CECD2 one. We won't really be able to accept other sign-up sheets. So please sign up, use ours going forward. Tonight is fine because I know people did it. Okay, so Len is going to call. She's going to call out the names. When she calls out your name, first of all, we apologize if we get any pronunciations wrong. It's not intentional. We apologize. We do the best that we can. Who's going to read your name? Please come up, go to the microphone, you speak for 2 minutes, and we'll time you as well. Thank you.
No, thanks for the opportunity. First, I'll list the first three, so the first can come up and the other two can have a seat close by so that they're ready to speak. We have Joe Vitar, Michelle Steinkamp, and Lee Duggar. I apologize if I mispronounced.
Hello, I'm here today to support Maud Maron's resolution, Common Sense Resolution 248, and to oppose any resolution that seeks to deplete or minimize Maud Maron's Resolution 248. I think we're up to Resolution 269 insofar as the opposition resolutions. It seems to be Frankensteinian, these opposition motions, because they keep on resurfacing, even though these panelists and this council have constantly and repeatedly voted down the opposition to Resolution 248. My sign, for those of you who cannot see, says CIS equals can't imitate sex. And last month, behind me is going to be a bunch of virtue signaling and baby bullying. This is what's going on every month. People on Zoom usually cannot see it, but it's the standard virtue signaling that goes on every month. Last month, it should be clear that these people do not care about all the children, because last month, Craig had an issue with babysitting his son, and they were shouting him down and minimizing his concern over babysitting his own son. They do not care about all children. They also don't care about the girls in the school sports who do not want to be playing with biological males. I am, as I've said before, an athlete. I'm a female athlete that has been sponsored. I'm speaking up for the girls that say these are not safe spaces for them to come up and voice their opinions. That's why Resolution 248 was established. And you opened up the meeting talking about standardization. We can't standardize grades. We can't even standardize the girls' sports team. When we can't even standardize what a woman is. The solution is simple. The solution is simple. Separate, and this is my last sentence, I'm just going to complete it. Separate the trans-identified youth from the girls. Thank you.
My name is Michelle. Hello. My name is Michelle. I'm a parent of a District 2 middle school student. I want to speak in favor of Resolution 268, as the grading rubrics vary a lot from school to school within District 2. My son attends Wagner and has friends at essentially every other middle school in the district, and everyone does things a little bit differently. Some allow extra credit, some don't. Some allow you to drop your lowest grade, some don't. And when you are applying for high school, you can miss the cutoff from one group to another by as little as 1/4 of 1 point. And so these things really do impact the students as they're applying to high school. And in general, why not just have a universal policy? Makes sense. And then also I wanted to circle back to an issue I had brought up at the first meeting at Morton Middle School earlier this year, which is the availability of all 8th grade students to be able to take Regents courses. Not all of the middle schools have it open for all 8th graders. Some do, and it would be nice if there was a universal policy, so it was equal across schools. It didn't make a difference what school you get placed in. You have the same opportunities no matter where you go. Thank you.
I'm Lee Duggar. I'll be very brief because I don't think I can speak any more eloquently than this gentleman has. I am in favor of 270. I just think it's absolutely awful and destructive that we would even consider not opposing it. Sorry, I'll speak louder. I support the 270.
Next, we have Annalise Shentes, Shelby Denny, and Sam Singh Heiser.
Hi, my name is Annalise Shantz. I'm a parent of a student at PS11. I find the behavior of the majority of you pretty shameful. I think amending old minutes because we got caught skipping, it's a little suspect. Also, letting members who are absent vote on the approval of their absences just seems not good governance. Leaving 30 minutes into a meeting before any voting also seems a little suspect. Not what I would vote for. Will the email evidence that supposedly exists be shared for the public record, or we're just going to take everyone's word on that? Like, if this is public, it should be public, and it shouldn't be 6 months, 2 months, 3 years old. Also, I'd like to say that 248 is obviously wrong. It should be rescinded, or since you can amend things now, maybe just amend it to fix it. Since you clearly said that's doable. 269 and 270 should be approved, and since I don't think you will do anything right here tonight, I look forward to voting you out.
Use the microphone. We can't hear you in the back.
Will do.
Right. Hi, everyone. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
A lot can happen in a year, but as these meetings have indicated, a lot can also stay the same.
While it is true that Resolution 248 does not hold any real power, the rhetoric behind it speaks volumes and speaks to one of our most vulnerable populations. The message it sends is that trans kids don't belong. I have listened to women who are athletes up here asking you to rescind. The high school students on this council have recounted their surveys of students on campus and stated that those students have no problem with trans girls in sports. Parents of trans and cis students have spoken out against the resolution. People you say you're trying to protect and speak for are telling you that they do not want this discriminatory protection. So at least be honest, you're not speaking out for them. You're speaking out for your own views, and you're claiming to represent people you refuse to listen to. I understand feeling defensive when someone was angry with you. It's something I've had to work on myself, but I also understand that the consistent discrimination trans people face means that they will rightfully be angry. I implore you to think about where their anger is coming from, as well as yours. I believe that everyone is capable of kindness. So where is this rhetoric coming from for you? I urge you to unpack the ideas fueling your words and choices and learn from the people with lived experiences within the communities you seek to oppress. It's okay to do better when you know better, and I hope that you do, because I'd rather be at my Wednesday night church choir practice than be here for another year. Yes, you can be religious and also support trans identities. Rescind Resolution 248. Thank you very much.
I understand that a great deal of people in this room have already made up their minds regarding children and transgender identity, but I'd like you all to humor me just for a minute. The argument coming from each side of this debate is that the other side is out to hurt children. Instead of continuing this pointless deadlock of opinion, I encourage everyone to consider scientific consensus instead. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Psychiatric Association both agree. Supporting transgender children inherently leads to better mental health outcomes. The AAP has reported that affirmed transgender children have lower rates of depression and suicide. The APA has found that gender affirming care improves well-being and has stated it should not be denied for ideological reasons. And as for the children that end up changing their minds about being transgender, I see these statistics thrown around a lot. The caveat that everyone brushes over is that the reasons for detransition cited are family rejection, discrimination, or lack of support. Being transgender is only a problem for a child if the adults in their lives make it a problem. A school system and institutions of education must be beholden to science, not fear, not ideology. If it is at all possible that children are being hurt by the decisions of adults, we owe it to them to take this issue gravely seriously. This is not the place to push self-interest. Please, the children and only the children must be put first. And in the end, and to that end, all we can give children, all we owe children is the truth. Thank you.
Next, we have Lisa, Kenneth Strassi, Jossie, Barak, and Margie Berkeley. So Lisa?
Hi, good evening. All I can say is I really feel like I'm in some kind of weird time machine that threw me back 40 years, because I've been an activist in the LGBTQ community since ACT UP, which we all remember how terrible that was. Yes, hi. And, you know, it is really about the kids. It's about the kids. And I'm pretty confident that some of you who maybe think you're doing the right thing with this don't really know any trans kids. You've got to get to know these kids. These kids know who they are. And, you know, the rate of suicide is unbelievable with trans kids. You got to let these kids, they know who they are. It's intuitive for them. And, you know, their blood will be on your hands. And their despair and their depression. You know, get to know these kids before you decide who they are.
Hey y'all, my name is Josie. I am speaking in support of Resolution 264 and calling for the council to rescind Resolution 248. I really need to stop writing these before the meetings because I guess they can just do whatever they want when the meetings start. But I would love to start with a chant that I learned from two young trans queens at a rally for trans youth the other week. I'd love if you guys joined me. It goes, if you're queer and you know it, clap your hands. If you're queer and you know it, clap your hands. If you're queer and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're queer and you know it, clap your hands. I wasn't gonna talk about their attendance, but they can just, yeah, they can just do whatever they want, and they have 7 of their old friends up there. I wish my workplace was like that. I wish I got reprimanded and people were like, you know what, no, let's all vote, and that's my friend. But it's fine, it's fine. I would like to draw attention to some wording in Resolution 268 about the rubrics. It says, quote, CEC2 recognizes that consistent and transparent grading rubrics are essential for ensuring fairness, equity, and accountability for all students. I do not think what just happened up there was transparent. I guess you could just remember really well what happened a year and a half ago, and oops, I forgot to change it until today when they would be outed, but sure. And I don't think they've been consistently showing up. Again, if I showed up to my job only half the time, I think people would talk to me, be like, I don't know if this job's for you. And obviously people are parents, things happen, but like Gavin said, I think there are people that clearly want to serve the students a lot more. So just like to remind everyone that campaign season is here. Thank you for all the parents that are here. You guys are so awesome. I know it's not easy. Spread the word, you know, the voting process isn't the easiest. Let's just get these Place NYC people out. They're weird.
Usually when I have a mic, I'm doing karaoke, but I'll spare you. I'm Margie Brickley, and I'm on the faculty at Bank Street College of Education. And so I've had the absolute honor and delight of educating some of the teachers, administrators, social workers, educational support people here in this district. And I wanted to talk tonight about 2 of the things that we like to talk to our students about. The first one is from our elders. It's not so much what you do with children, it's who you are in the lives of children. And I think that that's something that y'all can consider. Who are you in the lives of children, families, professionals? And are you taking this seriously? Are you doing this with love and compassion? And think about what this means for all the children, families, and professionals in this district. The second thing I want to talk to you about is something about, a little bit about development. I've been teaching child development for 35 years. And a lot of the rhetoric seems to think that trans kids somehow wake up and discover that they're trans. But we know in development that development is a bunch of cumulative experiences. And so just like learning to walk is cumulative, learning to read is cumulative. You don't wake up one day and learn to read. You have all these experiences that begin with the moment that somebody holds you in their arms and talks to you or sings to you. And that helps your social, emotional, cognitive development. And so does gender and gender identity and racial identity. All of those things have a cumulative experience. And so the opportunities that we have as teachers and professionals is to either support children in that development or hinder that development. And the type of rhetoric that we're hearing is hindering that development. And what is going to happen is we're going to end up with children who are self-hating. And we see some of what the results of self-hating are here, and some of the people who are here and hate themselves and are rejecting the community, who are the people who are going to be behind them when somebody tries to take away their marriage or their rights in any other way. Thank you.
Amy, and then Alana Daniel. And Shannon and Amy Neal. Shannon, yeah. Welcome.
Howdy, council. Howdy, y'all. We've been accused of doing this just to make community. I don't know about you, but this is not the place I would go to build community. There are more fun places. That said, it's been a year. It's been a year since the anti-trans resolution was passed, and I think that's worth noting. I think it's worth recognizing. Let's start with this. If you're a D2 parent who's here for trans rights, stand up. If you're here for trans rights in general, stand up. If you are here for trans rights in general, stand up, whether you are parents or not. You know what? We have built in a year, and y'all, let's celebrate that. Traditionally, it's cake and it's happy birthday. Now we're gonna have cupcakes going around, and if you would all join with me in singing happy birthday to the movement. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to the movement. Happy birthday to you. We will continue. New York City. And we do have cupcakes going around, y'all, and we have some for our progressive champions as well. Happy birthday to the movement, y'all.
Amy Neal. Amy Neal.
Happy birthday, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Louder? Okay. So a year ago, I started coming to this meeting because of a resolution that said we wanted a conversation. And instrumental in any conversation is listening. And that is what I fail to see every month when I come back here, hearing testimony, which is expert testimony, you have to say, from educators, caregivers, trans people themselves, board members from other districts, and members of the Department of Education teachers staff. Like, this is a very, very well discussed, well rehearsed conversation at this point. And the lack of change on the board just reflects that your minds are made up and that you don't actually care about the facts. This is like arguing about climate change. All the science is on one side and some other interest is driving the resistance on the other. If this board was actually sincere in wanting to protect girls and uplift girls, cis and trans, there would be resolutions in the past year that would have called out the inequity that exists for girls in every district of this city. Socioeconomic status, race, gender presentation are all obstacles in the learning environment that girls are forced to overcome. And I have heard not one word from this board in the direction of actually addressing those challenges. So don't talk to me about wanting to help girls, because I haven't heard anything from you that says to me you care about girls like me or my child. So I just have to call BS on that. And what really blows my mind is that this is an election year, and we have members of Place NYC up on this board who choose chaos over re-election because they are so committed to anti-trans rhetoric and anti-trans policy. So just remember that for parents who are here when they go to vote in the CEC election.
Alana Daniel. Elena, sorry. Oh, you didn't sign? Okay. Yeah, your name is here. That's fine. Lux Griffin. Lux Griffin.
right, thanks. And then the next is WKK, and then Hannah Westerman.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me? Am I good? Louder? Louder? Okay. Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Lux Griffin, and I'm here to shed some light on what things like Resolution 248 do to trans youth. See, I didn't grow up in New York City. I grew up out west in deep red parts of this country. Places where the kinds of messages that Resolution 248 sends are said by nearly every adult in my life. The trans people are not worth your kindness, your respect, or your love. They are worthy of your hatred and your fear. Funny, yes, that didn't stop me from being trans. See, transness is an intrinsic quality of who I am. No less immutable than color of my skin or the year of my birth. And as puberty rolled around, an accumulation of things it made it clear to me I was different. Thinking about how much I wished I could dress like the other girls in class, or being a bit too curious about how my friend was putting on her makeup. And that doesn't mean that that message had no effect on me. I took from that a lesson that I should fear those feelings, that I should see my dreams of acceptance as nightmares, and that I should hate the thing I was becoming. And that does things to you. That puts a blight on your soul that no 14-year-old is equipped to handle. I turned bitter and violent. I fell into the bad crowd. I did things I'm not proud of to this day. The important part is that there were teachers in my life who intervened and gave me a place where I could be. And this body has a choice. Does it want to be the adults that pushed me towards self-destruction? Or does it want to follow the example of those teachers that saved my life and that were the reason I saw a college dorm in adulthood and not a jail cell or a coffin? Thank you again for your time.
Hi there. Unfortunately, I'm here to speak as one of those teachers because Resolution 248 and the legislation like it has devastating consequences, not just for trans kids, but for every kid. I have been in my classroom and counseled children through those tough moments where they thought that the adults like you didn't care about them. I don't think that's true. Even those of you that support 248, whether you're listening to me or not. I believe that each and every one of you care about your kids and the kids in this district and the kids all over New York City, but you're not showing. And so I'm a debate coach. One of the things I do is the first thing I tell my students that debate is not a speaking activity, but it's a listening activity. And so to those of you who were or are or might be in support of 248, I'm begging you to listen. To those that have already spoken, to those that will speak after me, because this has consequences that I'm afraid you don't understand. And I am begging you to hear us, to hear the children in your lives, and to hear from those like Professor Brickley and others who may know better than you. Humility is difficult. I've had to learn a lot of it in my life, but I am begging you to listen and to hear and to make a decision that works for all children and not just for the people that help get you here and not just for the people that you think you're helping. Please, and thank you for your time.
I'm Hannah. My pronouns are they, them. I just want to acknowledge that it's wild that the attendance was just written so that members of this council could have been included in their seats. And on that note, elections. Is anyone in the room a current District 2 parent, or do you know a District 2 parent? Incredible. If you are a person who does it right now, chances are that you may without knowing it, or I am tasking you to find someone. With Aunties for Liberation, sorry. With Aunties for Liberation, myself and others have formed a group composed of parents and allies that are working towards supporting D2 candidates and spreading awareness about CEC2, the elections, and how to vote. If you want to join this group as we figure that out, come talk to me about connecting with the greater coalition. I believe in the past, only 7% of parents voted in CEC elections, but I know that will change and we will help to change that. So a few important pieces. Number one, right now through April 24th, there are candidate forums happening on Zoom for all the districts in New York City, so you can learn about who's running in the CEC elections. The CEC2 candidate forum is happening April 8th. That's a Tuesday from 6 to 9. Everyone put it in their calendars. And then from April 25th through May 13th, voting happens. Parents will use their NYC schools accounts, NISCA, to place their votes. A lot of people may not even realize they need one or have one. So for both of these pieces that I just mentioned, I want to mention that I have a flyer. I want to pass it around. It has information on Aunties for Liberation. It has information and a QR code on accessing your NISCA accounts. And it has a QR code for finding out about candidate forums. So please come get them, pass them around. We're going to vote all these people on this side of the table out, and I'm so excited.
Okay, hey, my name is Evie. I'm a trans woman, a lefty college professor, and a boxer. And I've hesitated to talk about my experience in sports here for several meetings since I'm an adult, and Resolution 248 and this whole board, don't forget, has a bearing on K through 8 students. But there is one relevant point I think I can make. As an athlete, I work really, really hard. So I do have an advantage over anyone less practiced, less skilled, or less conditioned as me, regardless of their or my assigned sex at birth. The so-called debate around trans children playing sports often hinges on a cynical and sexist fantasy that almost any child assigned male at birth will take puberty blockers and then, I guess, just easily dominate K through 8 athletics. But think about it. Doesn't this discount the dedication of young non-trans girl athletes? I think this fantasy certainly cheapens the hard work of all young athletes, regardless of their sex and gender. Last meeting, Leonard implied that this board has no real power, implying that 248 was just to start a conversation. You have the power to empower students. Craig, our wayward comrade, you have the power to empower young LGBTQ students. We all have the power to empower young people. Do we really want the narrative to be that no matter how hard girls work at what they love, they will always be beaten by the boys? Or that cis girls should be afraid of the girls fighting tooth and nail to be there alongside their non-trans teammates for a chance to play as equals? If this is the story we want to tell young people, we have lost our way. Because in reality, this story really has no evidence. And it only empowers the further erosion of quality of life for trans kids. For Sin 248, past 270. Thank you.
Annabelle, Bulgaria. Are you here, Annabelle? Okay, welcome. And then after that, it's Chloe, Alantari. Chloe, you're here. And then Sam Singh signed up again for this session, but since you
I thought that was the second session.
all good. So
And it's great to be back for another meeting, and glad to see that we actually have quorum right now. Hopefully we keep it. The 18th Amendment to the US Constitution was a stark prohibition within the US. The 21st directly repealed the 18th. Last meeting, I referenced the infamous 3/5 compromise. The 14th superseded without explicitly referring it to the original text. After last meeting, Craig shared that his biggest holdup on 269 is the direct rescission of 248. The text in question states, therefore, be it further resolved that CEC2 hereby rescinds Resolution 248. I asked Craig, I recognize you can't answer right now, but what changes could be made to the last sentence of 269 to make your vote a yes vote? Len, you had made a point last month and asked me if the chancellor had made any changes to the guidelines in response to 248. Even with no changes to the guidelines, the words still have power. Last time I spoke to this board, I mentioned a study on state laws and their effect on suicidality in queer youth. It's not the direct impact of the laws that affect youth, but how they shape the attitude and behavior of people around them. About a year ago, Next Benedict, a non-binary student in Oklahoma, walked into the school bathroom. In that room, they were attacked by a group of girls who had been bullying Next for days. The floor was painted with their blood, but Next survived. The next day, Next succumbed to an intentional overdose. Next Benedict should have never been attacked. They should still be with us today. We should live in a world where no one has to go through what Next went through. Leonard, what I ask you and the rest of your colleagues, you guys can look me in the eyes, by the way. As a CEC, I ask you to use your power as a CEC board member and as an individual of a community to help make that world a reality. Thank you. So everyone who looked me in the eyes, at least.
Hello, my name is Chloe Elentari. I am a resident of the East Village, and I am a holder of a doctorate in education with over 20 years of public school teaching experience. And thank you. The reason that I come to tonight is because I want to talk to you about my experience as a trans kid. All the trans people in this room were trans kids at one point, yes? And policies like Resolution 248, in 1990, when I was 9 years old and I realized I was trans, irreparably changed my life and harmed me. And nobody at the time even knew it. And this is what I want to call your attention to. Nobody at the time knew the harm that it was causing to me because these things existed. I chose to be safe and do as I think a lot of conservatives want trans kids to do and just hide who they are and pretend to be something that they're not. And so for the next 33 years, after I realized I was trans, I pretended to be a boy. I did my best. All that it got me was anxiety, depression, confusion, and ultimately an unsuccessful attempt on my own life. So I want those of you who are here volunteering to do what you believe to be as good and try to help school kids in this city to think about the fact that perhaps 3 or 4 decades from now, when your own memory of serving on this board is a distant memory, there might be a trans person attempting to end their own life because of something that you did when you passed Resolution 248. And if you're not okay with that, show us you're not okay with that. And show us that you realize that you can listen and you can learn to all of these experts in the room who are telling you you are hurting kids. Show us by rescinding Resolution 248. Thank you.
Right, Laura, and Shane Allen. Yes, sure. Shane Allen, and then R.I. Rice, Y-A-A-R. Yeah. I apologize. I mispronounced. Welcome.
I did a little rewrite to, I was wondering if I can have a little help. My friend over here. We'll rewrite to We Will Rock You. So what I need to use the music part, right? The bum, 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 and then the chorus. You're running around town now, acting kind of crazy. Listen to this crowd now, you're looking kind of shady. You got no shade, you got no grace. Spewing bigotry all over the place. We will rock you. You want to drag us down back to the 90s, tired of old jokes to keep us fighting down there. You got no shame, you got no grace. Wearing trans hatred all over your face. We will rock you. We will rock you. The other side wants to divide us. They won't divide us. How can they divide us? Let me do that part. The other side wants to divide us. Together stand tall. We won't be divided when we show our grace and we show our face. United we stand. This ain't up for debate. We will rock you. We will rock you. Come on, sing it. We will rock you. One more time. We will rock you. Thank you. By the way, this is what an actual coalition looks like, Maude, not the two people that showed up to your lame ass panel in January when you were sick the same week.
Allen?
All right, Gloria too. Gloria. Then Michael Lowe.
Hello again. My name is Gloria. I am louder.
Hi, can you hear me now?
My name is Gloria. I am a District 2 parent. I have children at 11 as well as Baruch Middle School. They are girls. We have friends of all types. And I want them and their friends to be safe in school. I want them to be able to go to school and thrive. And how do they thrive? By being with their friends, by playing sports, by being physically active. Why would we do anything to bar them from doing that? Kids need to feel safe in schools, and that's your job to listen to your constituents, right? I'm your constituent. I'm asking you to rescind Resolution 248, pass 269, and also pass 270. Please, thank you so much.
Michael Lowe.
Hi, I'm Michael Loeb. I was a teacher at PS 11. I taught for 7 years at Brooklyn and was a professor at Brooklyn College in the teacher education program. I'm also the parent of a junior who is a trans child. And I just want to say a couple things. One, that it's never too late. If you could look up. Mark, if you could look up, I'll use my time to wait. It's disrespectful. Okay. Thank you. So it's never too late to be respectful or to listen to children and parents. The question that I ask all of my students who are becoming teachers is, what is the purpose of education? So hopefully you're thinking about that. The purpose of education is certainly not to harm children. And the purpose of education, or what makes a skilled teacher, is getting to know your children. You can't know your children if you don't respect them, if you don't listen to them, if you don't show them care.
Reina Bien and Catherine. Reina Bien and then Catherine, and ending with Jewel.
So the parents in the back can't hear?
Oh. Reina?
So,
Reina. Okay, and then Catherine and then Jewel.
The parents in the back can't hear.
Your picture's that kind of show.
If you
Speaker and that's
pick it up off the ground,
that's why.
That's right. So it's open the mic.
can you all hear me in the back? I think it works. Not working.
Hello,
Try to say a full sentence.
can you all hear me in the back? It seems super loud right now. Now I'm more nervous. I'm the parent of a trans kid who attended last month's CEC13 meeting where they passed a resolution against Trump's anti-trans executive order. So what happens at CEC13 meetings? They offer childcare. They feed you empanadas. They introduce resolutions, talk about them, and then they vote on them without any drama. There's no Maud there who screeches about trans girls playing sports. There's no Charles that yells at a Gavin. There's no Daniela who stares at her phone the whole meeting because she has no respect for parents, children, or doing her job. There's no one running away from the meeting to screw up quorum or only showing up to doctor the minutes from 2 years ago to save their seats. They are energized. They are excited to do the work. They voted in favor of the resolution 7-1. Then they asked parents to come back because they want us there with them fighting for equity in schools. Can you imagine what that would be like to have a functional council here? All the parents listening tonight all over the city, this is our opportunity to choose the best people to represent our values and to protect our kids and our city from the fascists infiltrating CECs who want to ban books, segregate schools, and bully trans kids. Participate in the candidate forums happening this month. You can find them online. Make sure you can access your Nix account so you can vote starting on April 25th. Commit to rallying 3 friends to vote and ask them to do the same with their friends. Let's vote in some positive energy.
Jewel C is the last speaker. The public session. Jewel C. Reina, Catherine, and then Jewel. Reina, Bien, Kat. Oh, we did that. We did, right. Yeah, they came up. Yeah, they did. Yeah. No, I did, and then they came up. Yeah. And then Shane came up, and then Gloria came up.
Did they speak? Rice did not speak yet.
So I guess someone else spoke on their behalf? Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Bryce, and I go to Stuyvesant High School. So I've been asked by my peers and adults for support with queer dilemmas in my school. I work by helping my community become more assisting for queers and transgender people because some of them have parents who don't want to support their decisions or have people like adults in their life that also don't want to support their decisions. We are who we are, and being a child shouldn't mean that we are unheard or need iron tight boundaries over our rights. My friends in school schoolmates don't deserve to stress about what adults think about their rights and how they cannot get support on top of academic stress. Love your kids for who they are and support them, or they'll live the life that they want without you. Rescind 428. Thank you.
Catherine and then Joe.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Sharbach. I'm a pediatrician. So I'm here to add to the list of experts that have been cited. Thank you, first of all, for the representation of the American Academy of Pediatrics, which was very well represented already. As a pediatrician, I have experience treating both sports injuries and depression. I'm here to tell you that there is no literature on cis girls getting injured by trans girls in playing sports. There is, however, extensive literature on depression and suicide among trans youth. There is also extensive literature on trans youth being injured physically and emotionally by other people. Othering kids marginalizes them and empowers bullies. Othering any child makes all children feel vulnerable. I'm here to say that I am not the expert that you need tonight. Trans youth and trans adults are the real experts. Please listen to them. Please respect them. Please protect them. Please rescind 248.
Both Catherine and Jewel, please.
That's, yeah.
Whoa, Jesus Christ. All right, that's part of my time. That's my time. My name is Jules, and I am here even though I really don't want to be. And I see that many of you are pained by, like, I've seen all of us month after month. We don't want to be here either. If you could just like rescind and actually care about students, which also has me thinking of, I truly don't, like, this panel does not seem representative of neither the students nor the families in this district. From, like, look at the, my math isn't that great, but like when we had people stand up, I know you hate, some of you don't like trans kids, but the fact that you don't like transparency and the shenanigans that happened at the beginning of this meeting was completely nonsense. I feel like you're pulling a share if I could turn back time, who, by the way, has a trans child, but again, you probably wouldn't recognize that. I don't think, like, I want to invite you to talk to children. I work mostly in elementary schools, and when I go to a school, I look and sound like this. I got a little boy, short hair. I usually get, are you a boy or girl? And I'm like, I'm a girl. What are you, boy, girl, or something else? And then they move on. One time a kid was like, are you a man or a lady? And I want to be like, I ain't no lady, but we got through it. And 5-year-olds can understand it, and I'm not really clear why y'all can't. And to that point, I'm going to show you a picture of a child who's in a K-8 school. And what kind of sports should this child be playing? Would you have a way of finding out without asking to see this child's genitalia? Or how would you know the gender of this child? Or do you insist on seeing a child's genitalia to know what sports they're supposed to play when they're in K-8 schools? Again, this is a child and you don't have a clue of what their gender is, so it's freaking icky. But again, just talk to kids if you want to learn about what kids want. And I wanted to end on a joke of, like, how many CECD2 district people does it take to turn a light bulb? We don't have quorum, so we're gonna have to talk about that in 6 months. Or actually now we do have quorum. Please stay. You can actually vote on it.
Thank you. That concludes the public session. Now to the section.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for mostly staying to the 2 minutes. So I appreciate that. We'll go on to the president's report. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank PS 183 for hosting us. Thank you to the principal, Mr. Woodard, who could not be here tonight, and his staff for your hospitality. couple of announcements. Just wanted to remind everyone that under the New York City Kids Rise program, all K through 3 grade students in New York public schools are eligible to receive a New York City scholarship account with an initial $100 and opportunities to receive more rewards over time. You likely would have received emails or texts about this, or probably if anybody who has a K through 3 student, you probably received about 20 texts about this. But if you haven't, the best place to start is with your school's parent coordinator. A reminder that we're in school survey season, so if you have not already, please fill out your school surveys. They're valuable tools for feedback for all of our principals. Remember, you can fill one out. You fill out one for each child enrolled. So if you have 3 children in the same school, you can fill out 3 surveys. The surveys are at www.nycschoolsurvey.org, and you will need your OSIS number, which can be found in your NICSA account, or your parent coordinator can help you. Another reminder that this deadline for summarizing is March 28th. So if you're interested, please sign up at myschools.nyc. And you can find out more information at schools.nyc.gov/summarizing. Superintendent McGuire, when you give your report, if you could remind us of the various schools, because I don't remember offhand, that would be helpful. Some other important dates. Kindergarten offers will be released on April 2nd. Middle school offers, April 9th. 3K and pre-K application offers on or about May 13th. G&T applications for the upper grades 1 through 4 open in late April. I think it's April 21st, and they remain open until May 9th. CEC elections are coming up, as was spoken earlier. Voting opens up on April 25th and closes on May 13th. Candidate profiles are on the DOE website, so each candidate had the opportunity to write, I think it was 400 words, up to 400 words. You can find the link on our www.cecd2.org homepage. There will be District 2 candidate forms on April 8th, 9th, and 10th. Everybody goes once, so it's not like if Glenn was running, they can go on 3 nights. It's just one per night. Links are on the DOE website, but again, you can find the link to register for those forms, cecd2.org. We wish everyone running good luck and encourage everyone to vote. To vote, you have to be the parent or guardian of a child currently enrolled in a New York public school. You vote in your child's district. If your child is in such a program, you would vote in the CEC for the CCSE, which is for special education, CCELL, which is for English language learners, or CCD75 as well. We have representatives here from FACE sitting over there if you have any questions, or you can, of course, contact your parent coordinator on that. And I keep talking about the parent coordinators. They are unsung heroes. I was on a CEC president's call with Chancellor Ramos this week. She reported that just far, with the exception of some very small things, nothing directly to New York public schools has been cut from the U.S. Department of Education yet, and I emphasize yet. Obviously, they have cut a significant amount of staff, so what's really being affected now is the implementation of rules and monitoring of rights. So we have to pay close attention to this and be vigilant with our federal electeds. Also, it was reported that 150 school safety agents were approved to start the academy this fall. I know sometimes we hear of cuts, but it's also nice to hear that the city continues to hire and train these important parts of our schools. And finally, Eid is coming up, so I want to wish those who celebrate an Eid Mubarak. Eid Mubarak. I hope you have a good holiday. And with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our District 2 Superintendent, Kelly McGuire.
See how far all this gets us. We do have a presentation over there, so if you can see it, that would be helpful. Yeah, there we go. So thank you so much, CEC2, for having me this evening. Thank you, families, for coming out tonight. We have a lot of exciting things that are happening again in District 2. Very thankful to the good work that is happening across our schools in 3K through 8th grade. One thing that we want to just jump off right away and celebrate is a literary magazine, a student literary magazine that has been nationally recognized for the past couple of years at Salk Middle School. They're going to be traveling to the NCTE, the National Council of Teachers of English, to receive an award for their good work. You can see some samples of the Salk Literary Magazine on Instagram. It's really high quality and they do fantastic work there. We also want to celebrate that this past week was Civics for All across our city. Many of our schools have been working in Civics for All activities. District 2 became a Civics for All district in this past year. And we have a growing number of schools that are participating in different activities. They have invited elected officials to come to their schools to talk about voting. They have participated in participatory budgeting, in which groups of students get a chunk of money to think about how it is that they want to spend it to improve the quality of their school. And then they've also been participating in activities like Project Soapbox. Project Soapbox gives kids the opportunity to put together a speech, much in the way an elected official would do so. And we have 2 students from Battery Park City School that are going to be participating in the citywide event. They were selected to participate in the citywide soapbox that's going to be happening later this spring. So very happy and proud of our students here in District 2 and for the good work that they are participating in relation to Civics for All. Later on this month, we have a new spotlight visit, school spotlight visit coming up at PS 124, the Young Wing School. PS 124, as with many of the schools in our district, has a strong New York City Reads, New York City Solves initiative. They are going to take a special focus on thinking about how the issue of belonging really melds with a student's ability to learn. So we're going to see how it is that they are blending SEL and academics at the Young Wing School. And we hope that council members join us if you have time to visit us on April 2nd in the morning at PS 124. We want to take some special time to look at our math work through our NYC Solves initiative. We spend the vast majority of our time really thinking about how it is that we're impacting students in the classroom, thinking about how it is that we're improving access to mathematics, science, reading, and writing, thinking about how it is that we're creating positive environments for all students. Through our New York City Solves initiative, we've done a couple of things that I think are really exciting and interesting. We have been working with our district math, does this thing move? With our district math coaches. And so what we're doing is that we're taking new learning each time we get together with our teachers and then applying that work in classrooms. This past month, what we did was that we took all of our 6th grade teachers across the district on one day, all of our 7th on another, all of our 8th on another, and we brought them to a school, taught them some new ways of approaching planning, and then presented them with a classroom full of students, and they had to implement those new strategies directly with kids. This real hands-on learning is a way in which we think that we can be most effective in helping to support our teachers with new learning and work in our classrooms. Earlier this week, we also hosted a citywide visit for the districts across the city that are using the Wit and Wisdom curriculum as a part of the NYC Reads curriculum. We were at PS3 on Monday, and so we invited folks from District 18, District 19, District 3, District 15, and District 2, of course, as well as members of our central office. One of the things that's really exciting about the NYC Reads and the adoption of the Wit and Wisdom curriculum is seeing how it is that our teachers are growing, but also seeing how it is that they are adapting this curriculum to serve and support different groups of kids. PS3 is a very diverse community, and they have a large population of students who are part of the ASD Horizons program, the Autism Spectrum Disorder program at PS3. They have a class in kindergarten through 5th grade, and we were able to see how it is that teachers in the ASD Horizons classes were really able to adapt this curriculum to serve all students. We also had a visit just last week at PS42, in which they also welcomed families in from the ASD Nest program there. This is a group of 5th graders that were at the ASD Nest program, and many of them are excited and anxious also to think about moving on to middle school. Our ASD middle school program is at Lab Middle, and we got to see that earlier this school year as a part of our school spotlight visit tours. There are a couple of updates that I think are important to note in regard to memos that have come out directly from Chancellor Vilas Ramos. President Slutskin did talk about legislation and executive orders that are coming directly from Washington. Chancellor Aviles Ramos has wanted to make sure that our community is aware of how it is that New York City is approaching this and wants to reiterate our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, wants to make sure that we recognize that our schools are safe spaces for all students, including our LGBTQ plus students. And last night I participated in the citywide council for English language learners, and Chancellor Ramos reiterated her and the city's commitment to multilingualism, bilingualism, and translation interpretation services across the city. So we're excited about the work that is moving forward, and the Chancellor has reiterated her commitment and our city's commitment to this work. A couple of people here have talked about the candidate forums that are coming up as a part of the CEC elections for this year. We actually have 3 nights of candidate forums because we have the largest number of folks who have come out to apply and run for a CEC seat for the coming service. So those are April 8th, April 9th, and April 10th in the evenings. Again, that information about those forums are online. And then you can see also, actually maybe you can't see, but so I'll reiterate here. The information about voting is open April 25th to May 13th. Parents are voting online through their NICSA account. There is a period of time in which runoff elections may occur if so necessary, and then elections are announced in June, and then members take office in July 1st, and we have then our first CEC meeting of the new term in July. With that, just a couple of final notes in regard to the end of year calendar. As President Slutskin mentioned, Eid al-Fitr is coming at the end of this month. That is a non-attendance day for students and staff. We are closed for spring recess, April 14th to 18th. And then coming up soon, right after the spring break, are our state ELA exams. Most of our school students are going to be taking these exams via computer-based testing in grades 4, 5, 6, and 8. Grades 3 and 7 are our last remaining grades that are still taking the test on paper. And then in May, we have our New York State mathematics exam. Again, the same grades taking the tests on computer, and the same group of kids who are taking same group of students who are taking it on paper. So thank you so much for your time, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. I'll start off, and then I'll turn it over to my council members. First, Victor, we have translation. The Office of Translation Services is coming next month to present. So they'll be here. OLA, I think they changed their name, but essentially that group, they'll be here next month to present to us. They come out every year. My first question is on the class size implementation. I've been hearing, and this is more on the high school level, but I want to ask about D2. We've talked about this. Some of the high schools have mentioned as a way of implementing class sizes and working with the 80% rule for next year, remote learning, going to remote. You have said in the past that there has been no discussion amongst D2 schools of going into remote learning to implement the class size law for next year. Is that still the case?
Yes, that is still the case.
Okay, so no conversations, no plans whatsoever?
Nothing about remote learning in
Great.
Elementary and middle school.
Okay. And the second question I have, which is going back to the New York Solves, it's really about more of the math curriculum. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that right now in D2, we have 2 different curricula, I guess would be the word. And that by next year, it's going to be all integrated, the integrated math, I think, or whatever. What is the one that's going to be next year?
So it's a little bit more complicated.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So currently in our district, we have a few different math curricula that are going on. We have illustrative mathematics that is being used in some of our elementary schools. We have another chunk of schools that have recently adopted a different curriculum called Eureka Squared. And then And then we have some schools that are continuing to use a program called investigations. So the two curricula that are really fully aligned to the next generation learning standards out of the box are illustrative mathematics and Eureka Squared. Investigations, when it's being used in schools, can be a fine curriculum, but schools do need to supplement that curricula with additional materials in order to make sure that the kids are getting all that they need in order to meet those state standards. There is not a mandate for elementary schools to move to one curricula next year, or even a choice of different curricula. But we are beginning to look at a rollout over the next couple of years toward a few different choices, which actually haven't been released yet, 100%. But we are looking at a few different options for elementary school kids, elementary schools that are fully aligned with the next generation learning standards. And some of our schools are starting to make that choice. With the adoption of a new reading curriculum, schools just have to really consider the change management that they can handle at their school site.
How is that going to be determined? I know I remember with Wisdom, you had a choice of 3. You convened a group of district leaders and principals, and then that's how you collectively, or ultimately, you made the decision, but it was more of a collective decision to choose Wisdom as opposed to the other 2, which I think probably was the right answer. How is that going to be decided on the math side? Is that going to be a similar process?
It depends on what the ask is. I only know what kind of what I've had in conversations with our central team in regard to elementary school math curricula. I don't know if we're going to be asked to just choose one for the district, or if there is options, if there are options for different schools to choose different things.
Is there one versus the other that you like, or you've gotten more feedback? Because I've heard anecdotally, so I don't have the detailed information, but I've heard with the illustrative math that people are not happy with it. But is there one that you like, or you hate, or you'd love to get rid of, or one that you absolutely love, and this is how, when you retire, you're going to say, I got this math program in.
Yes.
My life is complete.
Yeah, I mean, my life is already complete. But I mean, the 2 that are most popular in our schools are the 2 that I think are currently strongest, which are Eureka Squared and illustrative math. But there's a slightly different approach toward learning math in those 2 different curricula. One is more centered on explicit and direct instruction. One is more centered on students grappling with big math problems and producing what it is that they know. It's a little more conceptual to start with. And then there's explicit instruction built into it. Both our elementary schools that use Eureka and both our schools that use illustrative have been successful with these curricula. And so my choice for our schools would be one or the other of those 2.
I do have another question, but I don't want to hog this, so I'm going to let my council members go if they have questions first. Anybody have any questions from the council? Okay, one last question. This is probably a very different answer that the high school superintendent would answer, but I'm asking more in this district. Could you talk about how much we use AI in this district, and how much do you expect? Will that roll up? Will that roll down? Do you even have a plan? Which maybe there is no plan right now. It's fine, if that's the case. But could you talk about the use of AI in the classroom?
Yeah, there is not a comprehensive plan right now in terms of how it is that we're using AI in District 2. We have some teachers and some schools that are working more closely with it than others, and they're really working with AI around a few kind of discrete things, generating questions in relationship to science, social studies content that they really want students to grapple with. They are using AI not as a direct tool for tutoring and intervention, but they are using AI to help to generate tech sets or problem sets that kids can work on that are in relation to how it is that they're currently performing on a task or on a unit. People are using AI a little bit in order to evaluate students' essays, but really it's just experimental right now. And I think that we are looking toward how it is that we might think about this challenge as the city. Chancellor Banks had convened an AI committee in which I was a part of, and then we had the switch in leadership. And so Chancellor Vilas Ramos has recently named that she is going to re-up that committee to look at AI for the coming year.
When you say evaluate essays or compositions, are they grading instead of the teachers grading? I don't think that's what you mean, but I just want to make sure.
It's more of to be able to look at a student's writing and determine where the connections are to the standards that they're trying to reach through the writing, and where it is that the essay may miss. And so it is, not marking a grade, a letter grade or a percentage grade on the exam, but more just in order to get a sense of where a sample, a work sample might align to the standards or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking AI. My concern, and maybe this is a separate meeting. Maybe we have somebody come in and discuss this. Is the guardrails of AI collecting all this information about our kids, and Lord knows what happens with that information. Because with AI, there's such an ability to take such information, and who knows what with it.
Yes.
Hello, thank you so much. A question that came to mind is about our guardrailing the internet at schools and what is coming through. Lots of parents have brought up that when their kids are in technology, I don't know if it comes up in other schools, that they're able to access many different sites that may not be appropriate. So unfortunately, an incident recently where in my daughter's class that they were taking a Bluey movement break on YouTube, and then something popped up with, I don't think nude, but it was a nude colored bathing suit of a female body, and all the kids were like, "Oh my God, there's a naked person on the screen." How are we kind of screening or monitoring? I know AI is blocked, but it seems like other sites are not blocked. The DOE.
Sure. Well, if that happened in your child's class and it happened as a result of the teacher playing something, I would love to hear about it because we want to make sure that that does not happen again and that event is looked into. I will say that our students are very good at getting around certain security systems that are available on the internet, but the Department of Education has gotten much better at putting up firewalls and things that don't allow students to gain access to that. That being said, they're constantly working on it. I do think that when that kind of thing occurs, that it does need to be looked at in the school, and the question needs to be asked, like, why did this even happen, or why did the child have access in a way that where they could do their own exploration if the student is finding this stuff on their own. But we are always trying to improve our security systems in the city.
I was wondering, is it school specific or is it overall DOE kind of puts guardrails or walls or which sites are blocked?
Yeah, it's a citywide systems that are put in place. Yes.
One last question for me, then I promise I will stop. And you don't have to answer this if you're not prepared tonight. I understand. We had the speaker earlier talk about the Regents math in middle schools offered in some or the other. Do you want to comment on that? Talk about that tonight, or?
Yeah, I can say something about that.
Yeah.
I mean, as I've said here before, not all of our schools in prior years had offered Regents exams in our middle schools. That is something that we have changed. All of our schools do offer Regents exams in both math and in science. We have also greatly expanded the number of kids who are taking Regents in both math and in science. There are some schools that do not administer the Regents exams to all students in math and in science. And if that's a situation that a child is not currently taking the exam in math or in science, I do encourage families to talk with their school administration if that's something that they're pursuing. I can say in many cases, we want to give kids access to Regents math and science because it does help to put them on a pathway towards more advanced mathematics and science in high school. We also want to make sure that we're making smart choices for kids around math and science, and they're not moving forward toward a course that they might not be prepared for. We want them to be successful in high school, and that is a reality. But I would be happy to talk to any parent about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question about the state tests, and particularly regarding the rights of parents to opt out of opt their children out of the state tests, which I understand they can do just basically usually sending an email to the school, to the principal or assistant principal. I know it does seem the policy seems to vary a little bit across schools. And for example, in my in elementary school, I recall one time where I sent the email to say that year we wanted to opt out of the state tests, and I got an email back from the principal saying, well, it's a requirement that we have a phone call to discuss it. And I actually knew that wasn't the case, so I just emailed back and said, I'm busy. I know there's no requirement, so we're going to opt out. And that was the end of it. But I just wondered, what is the direction that the district gives to the principals district-wide about opting out of the state tests?
We will make sure to clarify the rule in which it states that a parent can opt their child out of the exam by contacting the principal of the school. And so we'll make sure that they do know that. We encourage kids to take the state exam. It is not used for any high stakes manner in our city right now in terms of admissions to middle school or high school. It's a good snapshot for us to just get another piece of information about how a child is doing. But of course, that's a choice that every family has to make on their own.
I'm sorry, for the middle schools. You mentioned that all middle schools now offer science, because I know that was a resolution we had brought up to bring back the science and the ELA, like the Regents, right? I was under the impression only 5 middle schools were approved for that. Is that it or not? So we have.
That's not true. No,
okay,
every one of them. Yeah. And ELA, no, we don't offer
sorry,
ELA.
yeah, math and science.
Yeah,
so
math
they
and
could be
science.
in that pathway for.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
And if anybody has any questions for Superintendent McGuire, you can contact him directly. It's not a Q&A session now, unfortunately. He may be here at the end of the meeting, depending on the time. But otherwise, you can always go to the district's website, not our website, the number 2 NYC.org, and the contacts for the superintendent and his entire team are on there. So you can email him. And you have a question? Oh, sorry, Len has a question.
Hi, Superintendent McGuire. Good evening. So we have a resolution number 268 on the agenda that deals with standardized rubrics. So I just want to get your feedback just in terms of how is who is the most responsible? How are rubrics done in terms of grading for individual elementary schools in District 2? Like where's the primary rules come from, and what impact do principals have or school leadership teams? Could you just let us know?
So, a rubric is a pretty complex tool that's used to grade a single piece of work or category of work or general assignment that a student might get in their school. They are generally done and built in schools between teachers and an instructional coach, perhaps an administrator along with them. At times, there are rubrics that are provided by a publisher or by a program that is being used in the school. Yeah, that's how they're built and developed.
Well, what I'm guessing, what I really want to know is, to what extent do you, as the District 2 superintendent, with your team, influence if at all, I don't know, influence the individual rubrics at individual schools?
So we've gotten involved in rubrics when they are associated with a curriculum that is being used across the district, or an assignment that's being done across the district. And it's myself, but also a couple of coaches that work on our team specifically around instruction. We do not review rubrics that are directly connected to an assignment that might be done in one school but not in another. Might be done in relationship to a project that's done in a school but not in another. Our work really is involved when we have rubrics that come alongside a core curriculum that is being used across the district. That's where we think that we can be most effectual in making sure that teachers know what the standards are, they know what exemplary practice looks like, and they know how it is that they should use that rubric to evaluate students. And I will just say that rubrics are not always used to assign a letter grade or a number grade. They're often used as a developmental tool to help a teacher identify how it is that they're going to improve their instruction, or what skill that they're going to focus on in the next day or next week to help kids be the best that they can.
Is there any standardized attempt by you or your staff to standardize rubrics amongst the schools in District 2, or is that just what you're telling us based on individual basis as part of an assessment to see whether it comports with the curriculum that you may be teaching?
I mean, there are hundreds and thousands of rubrics that are being used across the district right now, because schools have different things that they teach that are really important to them. And if they want to do it well, they create a rubric alongside it as a support tool. Again, we think that the way in which we can be influential in this and supportive of this is when we're working with rubrics that are connected to the curricula that are used most across the district.
And last series of questions, I'm almost done. And then the connection between the rubrics and the grading that's done. Is there any influence that you as the district superintendent have to kind of standardize the connection between those rubrics and grades that are issued by individual schools for specific classes or grades or courses, things like that?
Not directly. There are a lot of different factors that come into place, not just as a part of how I do my job, but there are factors that come into play that relate to chancellor's regulations and rules and partnerships with our labor partners that impact grading across the district. The way that we think that we can be most effectual is making sure that teachers really, really know what it means to be excellent on a task, and what the components of that are, so that they are grading as accurately as they can in relationship to a rubric. But again, it's not a end of course assignment that we're often looking at. We're looking at like a big essay that's done as a part of the end of the unit or something like that.
Ultimately, would you agree that the principal of the school at a specific school would be the primary person who's responsible for determining either the rubrics or the grading, the connection between the rubrics and the grading?
Grading in a school really is not a solely determined, it's not a decision that only the principal makes. They do make it in partnership with their teachers. They do make it in partnership with their SLTs in some cases. But since teachers do have some autonomy in their classrooms, they really do take teachers' practice and expertise into consideration when doing that grading.
Yeah.
So I won't ask you about how many hours of professional development collectively would be required to standardize all end of the semester, end of the year grading rubrics across 1,800 schools in our system and 80,000 teachers. But I will ask you about the 50 or so schools in District 2. And I'm not sure how many teachers, but it's a quite considerable number of teachers in our district. How many hours collectively of professional development do you think it would require to implement and also just to monitor over the course of a year the implementation of standardized grading rubric for end of the year grades across our district schools?
It would take a lot. I'm not going to put a number on it, but it would take a lot. I do think that, parents who have reached out specifically in relationship to 268 or who haven't mentioned 268, but just have reached out to ask about grading in our district and our schools. I do think that there is a valuable conversation to be had, not perhaps in the purpose of getting people more on the same page of how it is that we're doing grading, but also to make sure that we are coming at this question of grading with more clarity. I think if people are asking, then we should try to be clearer about how it is that we are grading students. And that, I think, is something that a lot of people probably could agree on and learn from.
You are the superintendent of District 2, so you're essentially representing the students of District 2, correct? Would you characterize that?
Sure,
correct?
yeah.
I'm not trying to be an attorney. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
If other districts gave grade inflation based upon the type of class, and we didn't in District 2, as a representative of District 2, would you be concerned for your students that they were not being treated equitably in the high school admissions process?
I understand where the concern about equitable access to preferred schools, and I'm not talking about preferred as in like these are preferred and these are not, but just like for every child, what the schools that they want to attend. I do think that we need to look at what our numbers currently are and what the data currently do say around grading. As I mentioned, there's already a concern because people have questions about it, and we could do more to be clear. But I don't know if the data necessarily bear out that some schools are moving more students into the schools that screen from some districts or even from some schools in our district because of how it is that they're grading. I think that we need to look at where kids are coming from in their middle school and look at what high schools they're getting into and whether or not weighted grades have an impact. If they do, then yes, I would be concerned. But I don't even know the extent to which that happens across the city. I can say that this is something that I do think that we can be on the same page with in District 2, but I also don't know quite the impact of any kind of additional weight for a weighted course even has on a student's access from school A versus school B to a student.
I mean, we have heard anecdotally that it moved a couple of kids, some kids up into the tier 1 versus tier 2. So
you do agree that there are certain assessments, ELAs, math tests that are used to evaluate school performance in both on a district level, at individual school level, how many students are reading at grade level, things like that. You agree with me on that, right? I mean, that's a basic assumption, right? Let's start with that. Just really simple, right?
Can you just repeat it so that I can understand?
Yeah. Would you agree with me that there are currently tests such as the ELAs and math tests that evaluate students, and those tests are used kind of to evaluate performance? And to give you a general idea, like our students in district per school, are kids reading at grade level, for example, or fourth graders reading at grade level, or how is this district compared with other districts? Just as an assessment, a basic assessment. We use testing, we use ELAs, we use math. What I'm curious about is does anyone review, for example, if a student gets an A in English and ends up getting a 1 on an ELA test, or if a student gets a 4 on a math test and ends up getting, is there any, well, it looks to see if there's a correlation between those types of, and I'm only talking about 2 things, correlations between ELA or math scores and actual grades or final grades in a class. So because I find it suspect sometimes when we see examples of students who get A's in a math class and they get a 1 on a math test. Now, they could have a bad day, I mean, it's possible, but is there any current evaluation process that where you guys look and you say, hey, wait a minute, class, everyone got 1s, why is everyone getting 90s in this class? I'm just curious.
Yes,
Can I, am I answering that?
if it's okay with Glenn.
For what it's worth, I can give you a historical answer, which is when District 2 worked on the NICIP plan, the New York State Integration Plan that we were funded for. We did look, when we worked on the NICIP plan, I think in 2019, which we were funded, this district was funded, and some of that funding finished when Superintendent McGuire first took on his superintendency. We did look at, with actually Professor Marion, who was on that team, the correlation between grades and test scores at various schools, and she plotted them out throughout the entire district. And you can look at the differentials in some schools. In some schools, the grades were significantly higher than the state test scores. In some, they were lower. The school, as I recall, this was several years ago, but the school that graphed most neatly between grades and test scores was Lab Middle School. It was, you could make comparisons with regard to the data that you're asking about and talking about and the differentials between grades and test scores. So that's doable. We've done it before, and it's available to look at if it would be helpful to assess the merits and validity of the resolution that's before the district, because that is not by me, because I'm not the data head, but it is plottable, and it was quite interesting to see it when we looked at it during the NICIP process. Anytime.
Okay. One last thing. This should be an easy one because I know you took a line of fire tonight. A couple months ago, I was at Ballet Tech for your legislative breakfast. I got to reconnect with an old friend, your new young dynamic leader. She's here tonight. You want to introduce her?
parents. There's actually quite a bit of quite a few advisory opinions from the Committee on Open Government of New York State, which this is a public body, and so our meetings are governed by the open meetings law. And it actually provides that that no one can be required to, indicate certain personal details about themselves in order to speak. You can't be required to list your residence or other things. You're entitled to speak. And so I would say, on the same token, we can't, ask people and say like, oh, if you voluntarily disclose your District 2 parental status, you can, you can speak first. The community has a right to speak. And we are, we have an obligation to not discriminate against, any members of the community in institution. I think this bylaw amendment is just needless, and I think we should just vote it down. I also am really wondering, what is the difference between authority and discretion? Like the chair shall have the authority to suspend the second public speaker session, and the chair shall have the discretion to prioritize the order of speakers. Like, is there some meaningful difference between authority and discretion? But I mean, either way, they're both bunk. So let's just move on.
Sorry, I was the second laptop, the battery died, so I apologize. So I had to deal with that. I'm gonna make a motion to amend this to make the first line, the chair shall have the authority to suspend the public speaker session, adding for the purpose of managing time. So it's very deliberate in there. And then in the second sentence, the chair shall have, I'll add in the end, in compliance with New York State open meetings law and New York State education law. Just in case, to Gavin's point, we want to make sure we are complying with the laws. So everything I want it explicitly stated in compliance with New York State open meetings law and New York State education law. So I will make that motion to make an amendment. Is there any discussion on that?
Yes.
Sorry, before you do that, is there any second to that? Okay, now go ahead, Gavin.
I mean, do we really need to amend and to add in compliance with the open meetings law and New York State education law? Do we really need to say that, like to explicitly state that we are bound by New York State law? We are bound by New York State law regardless of whether we say it or not. I think this is just silly.
I will say, we've had a couple of meetings where, one second. We've had a couple of meetings where we were at 9:55 and I tried to adjourn the meeting and people objected. We had to be out of here at 10. Let's be honest. I don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. We have to be out of here at a certain time, and certain council members tried to obstruct that. And that was, first of all, that's disrespectful to the custodial staff who have to clean up and close it out and leave, and the security staff. So unfortunately, I think that especially the first sentence, it's just unfortunately needed. In the second sentence, I can take it or leave it. You can vote it down. It's fine with me. So go ahead.
Yeah, since you mentioned the second one, I was going to ask a technical question in that we're voting on these proposed revisions, and what if, there are some of us who may be willing to make one amendment and not the other. So how are you going to separate the two?
When you vote, you can say
Just one or the other. Gotcha. That's all.
Now let's be clear why this council wants to prioritize the order of speakers and why it wants to limit public speaking, why it thinks it's up against this hard deadline. I suspect, and people could correct me if I'm wrong, that has something to do with Resolution 248. I mean, it's clear that this bylaws amendment is here because some people in this council think there are too many, trans people and too many parents of trans kids speaking in our meetings. That's what it is.
That's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous because guess what? I actually listened to what you had to say. I might not agree with you, but I listened and I heard you. I listened. I was respectful. I looked at everybody. I heard what you said. And we may disagree. We may honestly disagree. I appreciate your advocacy and everything, but we gave everyone an opportunity to speak. Okay, and you will have a second speaking session tonight as well. But, so I don't want to be told or insinuated that we're not giving members of the public an opportunity to speak, because that's not true. Because you've been here, and I appreciate it. And again, it's long, yeah, I agree, it's a pain, but what we're trying to do is just to make sure that we have the discretion, again, that the chair has the discretion. And they could call for a vote if they want, but just to make sure that we have the discretion to kind of, make sure we can get out of here on time. That's it. But to insinuate that we don't want to hear from you, or that we haven't given you an opportunity to be heard, that's not true. Because I see your signs, I heard you tonight, all right? I might not agree with you, but I was listening to you. I was listening.
Okay, I'll amend my comment to correct myself. I mean, Len is willing to listen to you tonight. He's just not willing to listen to you in April, May, or June.
Say what Glenn said as well. I've been here, I've been at every meeting, okay? I can't talk about other folks. I've been to every meeting, and I stayed at the end, okay? But now, and I've been willing to sit down with people. After last meeting, I was here till 11 o'clock, not 10 o'clock. I was here till 11 o'clock speaking to people on the street about this. This is not me not wanting to speak. I have consistently, thank you. We have consistently listened to you. We may disagree, but we have consistently listened. This council has consistently listened.
I would like to go home. Please vote and rescind 248.
So we're doing a vote on the proposed amendment. So I don't remember the specific.
The end of the first sentence, for the purpose of managing time. Second sentence, in compliance with New York State open meetings law and education law.
This is just on that amendment. So vote yes if your approval, or no if you oppose or abstain. Brady? Allison? Daniela is not here. Gavin? Charles?
We didn't separate them, so yes to the first and no to the second.
Yes.
Okay. Maud?
Yes.
Sonal is not here. Jessica? Sarah is not here. Sabina is not here. I say yes. Greg? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion does not pass. It's either 5.5, 6, but it doesn't get 2 against.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment itself? Okay, let's take it to a vote.
Okay, so this is a motion to approve the proposed bylaw revisions as sent to the council. Simplify that. I don't think it should. Okay, so Pri, Allison,
Yes.
Daniela is not here. Gavin, Charles, Maud,
Yes.
Sonal is not here. Jessica, Sarah is not here. Sabina is not here. Leonard Solomon, yes. Craig, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A motion does not pass 6-0, 6-2. And our student members are not present.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is the discussion of resolutions. We'll start off with resolution 268, resolution calling on the new. Did I miss something? Oh, sorry, I apologize. Sorry, it was, yeah, sorry. Are there any other committees? I apologize, Mike. Are there any other committees that wish to, committee chairs that just want to discuss on their committees?
Yes.
What now?
I wanted to, on behalf of Allison and myself, give an academic affairs committee update. We held 2 meetings earlier this year in January and February. And very briefly on both, in January, we had District 2 parents and other parents, other individuals with expertise to offer on the subject of gender identity in curriculum, and had a very good discussion. And I will point out that one of the reasons we did that is because of the folks here, because folks come to discuss that topic so extensively, and we thought that it would be helpful to have a session in an organization where we could exclusively talk about that subject because folks ask for that conversation all the time. I don't know if Shannon is still here,
Yeah, I'm
but
here.
there you are. I want to thank Shannon for showing up and for engaging in that conversation.
Yeah,
because
I'm
so-
happy to talk about that, the entire.
Shannon, I'm giving the committee update right now, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna continue to give my committee update. I
You
will.
called me by name.
You can speak in a second.
It-
You called me by name.
I did, I said thank you. It wasn't, it was just a comment about the fact that some folks came and participated and some folks did not. The primary reason I did that was because
Kind of like you most of the time.
what the Academic Affairs Committee was founded to do was to talk about the academic strengths of our district and how to improve them. Our February meeting was focused on what Allison and I have been working on for really this entire term, which is how to improve math instruction in our district. And I wanted to share, particularly with parents who may be watching at home or anyone who decides to watch this afterwards, that we had actually last calendar year a professor from the California university system who has worked on really looking at tracking within math as a way to help cater math instructions to different groups of kids who are ready for different instructions at different times. In February of this year, our Academic Affairs Committee meeting had 2 speakers, one of whom is a District 20 parent, where they have looked at how to bring algebra and geometry into middle schools, and one of whom is the former math teacher at Lab Middle School who instituted the accelerated math program at Lab Middle School, which I have always found to be a particularly excellent District 2 program, because if you know anything about the way that school has worked historically in District 2, it is one of our schools that has had really, you know, the socioeconomic makeup of that school has been lower than many of the other District 2 middle schools, but it was a school that sent the highest portion of students to specialized high schools. It is a school that prioritized accelerated math for their 7th and 8th grade students, did an excellent job doing it, did it through a screen program, and really made available to public school students who don't have options for expensive acceleration outside of school the ability to get that good math instruction. We are keen to help introduce similar programs like that to more middle schools and even in the 4th and 5th grade and elementary schools in the district. We have sent out many invitations to parents and had a really lovely, robust response to have a detailed conversation about how to potentially do pilot programs of this. And we spoke at the very beginning of this term when the Academic Affairs Committee was founded about doing that with superintendent and the superintendent and deputy superintendent. And Allison and I are grateful for that conversation early in the year, and we would like very much to resume that conversation, especially now that we have talked to so many parents who are keen to bring that potential option into the school. I'll say one more thing about that, which is we've heard from the superintendent and from folks here about, and we always hear historically, I've been on the CEC since 2017, we always hear about funding and about expensive programs. The thing about separating children by some ability so that we can meet their needs more fully in terms of assessing where they are and developing programs that meet their needs where they are, is that it is an incredibly low cost proposal, right? Making sure that kids who are ready for an above grade level math program versus the kids who are on grade level or the kids who are struggling to master grade level, making sure that you group them together is a way to, without particularly, increasing costs, of giving better instruction for the kids who need it. And the other thing that's come up again and again in this conversation is that so many District 2 parents are spending a tremendous amount of money to get outside math instruction for their students. And not only is that cost prohibitive and inequitable because some families can afford it and some can't, it also takes away from the time when kids are not, they should be learning that stuff in school. And when they're outside of school, those should be time for sports, for family, for friends, for activities that they shouldn't have to learn math again after school when they've had a math class that isn't meeting their needs in school. So we are keen to resume this conversation. This particular CEC term took all sorts of pathways that I wasn't anticipating at the start of the term. But one thing that has been consistent is that we hear from parents all the time about the desire and the need to change, to improve that accelerated math instruction. So I will wrap it up by saying, particularly for the parents watching at home, Allison and I, our CECD2 email addresses are on the website. We have heard from many parents who are very interested in hearing from more parents so that we can talk about how to implement some of the pilot programs that we've begun to discuss. And we look forward to having that conversation with District 2 parents who are actually interested in improving the academics of our kids' school. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next item on the agenda, I'd like to get to the next public speaker session. So the quicker we do it, the quicker.
My name was brought up specifically. I would like 20 seconds.
We can't do that. We can't do that, unfortunately. Okay, so, but I encourage you to sign up for the second speaker session.
I am signed up, but my name was brought up
Yeah, so
specifically. I would
we
like
can't
to
do it.
object to something that
So,
my name was brought up.
okay. So the next item on the agenda is the discussion of resolutions. We're going to start off with resolution 268, resolution calling on the New York City Department of Education to standardize grading rubrics across schools. Does anybody wish to speak? Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to table it till next month. I make a motion to table resolution 268 till next month. Is there a second? I'm sorry. Allison seconds. Can we vote on it?
Is there any discussion on the resolution?
On the motion.
On the motion, sorry, on the motion to table. Take it to a vote.
Pre-Beaufort, Allison.
Yes.
Daniela is not here. Gavin.
No.
Charles.
Yes.
Maud.
Yes.
So is not here. Jessica. Sarah is not here. Sabina is not here. I say yes. And Craig.
Yes.
Motion fails 6-2. Does not pass. Our student members are not here.
So does anybody wish to speak on this resolution?
So I'm not going to go through too much of what I said at the last month's meeting, but I will give you a real world example of the effects of having different schools and different grading and the perception of different grading at different schools in our district. So grades are used for admissions purposes. So if you're going from elementary school to junior high school, if you're going from junior high school to a high school, grades do matter. Not in a pure lottery situation, but they do matter. And I will say that I have seen parents that unfortunately have decided to send their children to particular schools because they think that's going to be easier. And even though they are convinced that this is not as good a school, or this school may not have as rigorous a curriculum, or it may be further away, or for whatever other reasons they can think of, but they are willing to send their children there because they think it will give them one leg up, kind of a gaming the system because they think that this school has a reputation for being easier grading. So they may not get the greatest, let's say, middle school education, but they'll have an advantage for high school admissions. I think that's wrong. I agree with the student representative that spoke last time and talked about, well, this isn't, and I think Gavin maybe mentioned, this isn't an easy thing to do, but I think we should try. I don't think it hurts to try to kind of standardize grading, so at least parents don't have to sit and say to themselves, I'm going to game the system by sending my child to this middle school as opposed to that middle school because the grading system is easier. I don't think that's the way to do it, and parents shouldn't be put in that situation. It's so absurd, and I don't think that, and that's why I think we should try to have more uniform grading throughout the district.
Well, I mean, this is the thing about this council. I kind of joke when I joined the council that it's not the community education council, it's the community admissions council, the community screening council. Because you know what percentage of our high school students in New York City public schools attend a school that screens for grades? It's 15% across the system, only 15%. Like, we are going out of our way to change everything, grading, put in a rubric for 80,000 teachers, for 950,000 students in 1,800 schools for 15%. Like, I don't really understand. Is this adding to our pedagogy? Is this adding anything? Are kids learning more because of this? No. And I mean, the same thing, this is in the same vein as this weird math path thing. Like, this math path is just screening. The committee never has talked about academics. It's talked about gender ideology, and then it's talked about how to keep, some kids in a math class and keep other kids out of that math class. And that's not a strategy for educating our students. That's a strategy for segregating, for separating our students, and it's wrong.
Oh. Yeah, I was just going to say, after reading it and then the conversations you had with the superintendent, talking about it, and then Gavin talked about how difficult it may be, you may want to, I don't know, adjust or add to it. Maybe this is a big leap before you get to the point of standardizing. Maybe it should be a focus on transparency. So kind of knowing what the grading is, even if it's not standardized, just to get an understanding of how they're grading whatever the different coursework that they're doing. Since there's so many different types, and as the superintendent said, the teachers get some autonomy. It's going to be really hard to do it, but you should be able to clearly state what it is that you're teaching and how you're coming up with the grading system for what you're using. So that's just a suggestion.
I think what the comments tonight, both from Gavin and from the superintendent, really led back to is the fact that this is a Herculean task that may be nearly impossible, and that we already have something that is standardized as a way to decide who may be eligible for certain admission standards, and that's called the ELA and MAP state tests. And I think the next step from a resolution like this is to say, let's reintroduce those state tests as part of the decision-making process for admissions, both for middle school and for high school.
The only thing I would say, Gavin, is it may very well, I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I'll take you at your word that 15%, only 15% of, I know, is that in the city of New York? But I will tell you that we do have, fortunately, and this is in no small part due to the fact that we have a great administration here, we have wonderful teachers, we have great schools in our district, but District 2 really does very well compared to other districts in New York City. And because of that, I'm sure that the number of 15% is actually a higher percent. I don't have the numbers, I'm just going to speculate. I do believe that if we're looking at students from District 2 who are applying to schools where grading is part of the admissions process, is a lot higher than 15%. I'll back that up maybe in the next meeting, but I will tell you that we are fortunate that we do have kids in our district, and we want to give them, the best opportunities that we can. Whether it's 15%, whether it's 30%, whether it's 45%, I think it's important that we do what we can for everyone, including those 45% or whatever it is.
Any other comments?
I mean, like, let's not talk. I think we should be very plain when we talk about these things. Is that, when there was a gifted and talented test, the OSAT something or other, like a standardized test given to 4-year-olds to enter into gifted and talented programs, something like 50% of students in District 2 who took the test qualified for a seat. It's not because 50% of the students in District 2 are gifted and talented, or they're just that much smarter than kids in District 8 or District 10 or District 13 or whatever. Let's just be really frank about like what these tests are testing. I also want to say that is, if you want consistency, if you want transparency, there are really some kind of like foundational tools that our schools are, that people are trying to give our schools to do that. What is lower class sizes? As we look to the class size law, we try to implement lower class sizes. whether it's 10 or 25 students, depending on the grade level, which is a huge improvement from 32 or more students in classrooms now. This is part of what will give our teachers the ability to, and our kids are not widgets. They have different needs and different strengths, and we have to like teach to our students, not to a rubric, because the rubric doesn't learn, the kids learn. And so I think we should really be putting our efforts behind, making sure that our schools comply with the class size law. I think that would be the most important thing we can do.
Any other comments? Okay, we're going to go to the next resolution, 269. Resolution to affirm CECD2 support of NYCPS's guidelines to support transgender and gender expensive students and rescind resolution 248.
Why did you co-found Grace with that? Why are you allied with that?
So, okay, so
Why do you hang out with fashion?
we are down now. We're now down to 6. Okay, we are now down to 6.
How can we know? What were you guys talking about earlier behind that folder? Yeah, what was she whispering to you?
We are now down to 6.
I couldn't read your lips.
We are now down to 6. We do not have a quorum.
Out of order.
Oh.
You let this happen.
So.
You let it happen again.
Okay.
Why did they leave?
I have to ask that.
I have a procedural question.
Yes.
We actually had a vote about tabling of resolution 268, but it did not pass, so we did not table it. So by virtue of those two, leaving, I guess, are they trying to hold over the resolution to the next meeting if we don't have quorum? It seems really like an end run around a vote that
I can tell you that I don't know. You would have to ask them. I have not been party. Okay. So the question is, so we do not have. Okay, so we do not have quorum. There's no point in discussion. We will not vote on resolutions tonight. We can't approve. We can't look at minutes. We can't approve the minutes in the last 2 meetings. We can have. Okay. Okay. We can have a sec. We will have a second public. We will have a second public speaker session. I think everybody is here. We have people who are signed up. So we will allow that, and we will do that now. Victor, if I can have the list.
Can we amend the minutes to make these unexcused absences, or is that an absence?
I'd like to ask the representatives from FACE, what constitutes attendance at a meeting? If a person walks in and 5 minutes later walks out, is that attendance? Or is there anything in the chancellor's regulations that you can point to that judges what is attendance at a meeting?
Unexcused absence
Jesse, I'll yield to you. Okay, we're gonna let Jesse from Space address the council, please.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, council members. I think the question is, and I'm not speaking about specifically this incident here, is that there have been moments where a council member, for instance, if there is a situation with their child or if they need to leave. No, I'm not. I'm not speaking specifically about this situation, everyone. I'm not. What I'm saying, Gavin's asking me a question. Councilmember Healy is asking me a question about circumstances where that is like allowable. There have been circumstances where that's been allowable based on what the in the sense the situation is with a particular council. So if you're asking me, you know, have there been circumstances where someone leaves a meeting but they're still counted as being in attendance because they were here for a majority of the meeting, and then there is an emergency that occurs, and then there has to. I'm not talking about, once again, everyone. I'm not making it specifically about this situation. I think I think this is the conversation that the council needs to have, you know, about specific reason. But to Mr. Healy, to Councilmember Healy's point, there have been situations where that has happened. I think that we have to talk about the specific circumstances of this situation. Let's talk about this particular circumstance. But I hope that answers the question. Yeah. So I think there's right, and I think that's a conversation for the council. But there have been situations where someone is here for a limited amount of the meeting, and the council's like, we're not excusing that. And it's declared it as an unexcused absence. But it really requires discussion about the circumstance. Correct. It would be a conversation that the council would have to have about the details.
They're all looking out for each other, so how do we hold them accountable?
Craig, why did they leave? Why did Allison and Maud leave?
I don't know. I really don't know.
What were they whispering? What's their excuse?
Okay, I just want to say this. So first of all, I had no idea that the two members were going to leave. I just want to let you know that. I just want to say to the extent there is a conspiracy, I'm not part of it. What I will tell you is, unfortunately, the effect, we all know the effect is that we don't have a quorum. So I hear what you're saying. I hear it. If you want to speak and be heard on that, please sign up for the second public speaking session, and your comments will be recorded. That's all I can say. You heard from the face representative. That unfortunately that's the way it works. And quite frankly, it's not just the three members are not here. There's other members that aren't here either. So as a majority, if other people were here, we might still have a quorum. But so all I'm saying is, unfortunately, this is the reality. I don't agree with it. I don't know why people left. I can assume why people left. I mean, you know. But the reality is this is the effect of them leaving. So I think we just need to move on. Please, if you want to speak, sign up for the second public session. I'd like yourself to be heard.
Get better friends, Len.
All right, so we're starting the second session. Greg, you're going to be timing, right? The public session? So Amy Neal.
Maud! Oh, crap. Yeah, actually, I wasn't going to speak again, but then she, please don't take that out of my time. You run the most dysfunctional CEC in the city of New York, and I used to be in CEC 14 in that district, so I speak from experience. But you should be very proud of what you have created here, because you won't back down. You have put transphobia above democracy and above accountability. So congratulations. I wanted to speak about the curriculum meeting that Maud and Allison sponsored, which you have a limited number of curriculum meetings you can have in any given year.
And they chose to have the conversation by flying someone in from Kansas. And I can't remember what other states they brought people in from to talk about getting all gender ideology out of New York City public school curriculums. They did not talk about any existing curriculum. They didn't talk about ELA. They didn't talk about mathematics. They didn't talk about social emotional. They didn't talk about anything that our students actually do. They told story after story, including, I hope you know this, one of the speakers explained in detail how she can't orgasm. And that was a curriculum meeting for your CEC. This does nothing to improve the education of the children in this city. And I think you should be embarrassed to carry water for these people. It's awful. I think that our students deserve something so much better from this, whether they're cis or trans. They deserve council members who are going to actually talk about teaching to the student, not teaching to the test. And I feel like I'm in a time machine. I opted my kid out of state tests 10 years ago. And I was very happy to be part of a movement that brought us class size caps and de-linked test scores from teacher evaluations. Place NYC wants to turn back the clock on every one of those reforms, every one of those student first reforms. And they need to be voted out, not just in CEC2, but across the city.
Hi, everybody. Oops, wow, that's really loud. Cool. I was going to get up here and say that I'm a 7th grade algebra teacher and was going to talk about accelerated math. And thank you. And ask actually as a data head for a copy of Maud's report. And do we know where we could get that? The report that Maud referenced earlier comparing grades and test scores. Cool, thank you. And talk about the ways that when it's decided by student by that I can't talk tonight. Talk about the ways it's decided when it's decided by standardized testing. It's basically designed as a way to segregate classes, designed as a way to segregate schools. And I don't know if anybody caught it. They were saying that they were encouraging accelerated education as a cheap way to make classes better for people who need it, which is a pretty good euphemism for let's make classes for white kids. Yeah, but they left, so I don't like to talk about that. Instead, I prefer to talk to FACE. And I'm curious, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that FACE's job is to interface between parents and schools, and that managing CECs is part of your job, and it's why you're running the elections. Is that correct? Cool. And so my question then is, what accountabilities do the councils have toward you? And again, as a teacher, like taking attendance matters. Again, if we're talking about data and its importance, how often you show up matters. How long you stay during the meeting and whether you stay for the vote matters. And so I was wondering if we could go back to Gavin's question and get more of a response than just here's a hypothetical, not about this account.
And I thank you. And I appreciate that. It's not that I want to talk about hypotheticals. It's the fact of the matter is that to your point is that we need to get more detail as to the specifics of what happened, right? And the only reason I gave, understood, but the reason that I was using a hypothetical to Councilmember Healy's question was that, and mind you, I don't know the reasons why the council members left. Understood, everyone.
Charles just told me
But
because there was
but
going to be no vote.
But
He refused to do his job to listen.
the question was with respect to accountability. So we need to get the details. We need to understand the reasons, and that's where determinations could be made as to the question was whether this would account for, a excuse or non-excuse. And that's, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. And I'll definitely turn over to you. But that's the reason why I am speaking in hypotheticals, because that's information that I don't have right now. So respectfully, that's why I gave that response to Councilmember Healy as a example And I think what, due to the questions and the concerns that were raised, that's more information that needs to be had.
Then my follow-up would be, in all the change minutes at the beginning of this meeting, they're not hypotheticals anymore. So is that an acceptable approach to change minutes from 2 years ago that have already been approved by the council?
In the conversation, the council just have the authority to do that. In the conversation, though, that was happening earlier today, there are very specifics like, I received this information, I received this email. I believe President Slutskin was referencing the information. So that's the level, and to your question, that's the level of accountability in the sense that FACE would have. So someone says something, that's one thing. Someone produces a document and said, no, I actually received this on this date, here it is, that's the accountability.
So from FACE's perspective, changing all of those prior minutes, including 2 years ago, is acceptable?
If they have the documentation that they have and it's there, if someone said to them, I am calling out, on this date, emailed within the respective time that was stated, yes, it is.
Okay.
But they have to have the information. But I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I don't want to take time, but I appreciate the question.
I have the information.
Thank you. So next we have Tara Lewis and then followed by Joel C.
Hello, my name is Tara Lewis. I'm a mother in District 2, and actually a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I came here to listen. I've heard that there's a lot going on at these meetings. I wanted to come, I wanted to listen, I wanted to hear what everybody had to say, really before I said anything, and I've done so. And it seems pretty clear to me that a couple of things really stand out. One is that the chancellor's mandate is pretty clear, right? Alex Ramos said that we are supposed to be staying with the inclusion curriculum, the inclusion in New York City schools. That's what we have been doing. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And I think that it's a very slippery slope when you start to exclude people. I'm not an activist. I'm not standing up for any one particular group. But as soon as you start to other groups, you open the door for that. And you will start to other groups. That's what happens pretty quickly. And I think we're seeing that because you know what? DEI actually is everyone. Every single person in this room, or can be DEI, because you know what? You break your leg. It gets cut off because you're a soldier and you went into war and you become DEI. My son has an IEP. He is DEI. They might say he can't play on a sports team. And I am not comfortable with that. I don't care if you're uncomfortable with trans people. You can be uncomfortable with trans people. You don't have to hang out with them. You don't have to sleep with them. You don't have to like them. You can turn away from them if you like. That is absolutely fine. But we cannot exclude any group of people in our public schools. Anyway, and to do so is frankly, it's a very bad look. And in our current situation in our country, it is even more important than it was a year ago to stand up. And if you can't stand up now, then you can't stand up later when it's your kid, because it will be. Because your kid had an accident. Maybe they hit their head and they have a brain, and you know what? They're DEI. Or they're Black, because Black is DEI. It is. So, and I am, because I'm a woman, and I'm DEI too. And we need to stick up for each other and not let this kind of stuff get in the way of democracy, because that's what we've been allowing to happen in our country. We have been losing our democracy because of stupid stuff like this. And it is not a good fight. It's not a good fight. It's not a good hill to die on, guys. Do you hear me?
It's such a waste of time. Yep, that's that. No, there are I'm actually not even, well, I'm gonna go back to transit, but, yeah, all the nonsense that was being shared to build on, oh, wait. Or I guess I'm too loud, I've been told that before. Yeah. I can just away. Sorry, I'm not doing my full time. Yeah, the idea of tracking because it's cheap, like Elena was saying, just because it's cheap doesn't mean we should be doing it, right? Segregation is also, I guess, like cheap, but right? She's saying that all these tests and whatever. The lab middle school actually does have smaller class sizes because they have several mess classrooms. So to Gavin's point, there are reasons why, even with their low SES, ooh, the poor people and some of whom are color. Yeah, because they have an S program, those students tend to test really well, particularly in math programs. So there's like all these kind of things that she's completely leaving out. And again, maybe not a data head, but sometimes I am. Also, Z-scores could solve almost all of these problems. But anyway, universal design for learning is also a component of the NEST program, which again helps these students learn math, and it has nothing to do with tracking. It's the exact opposite of that. It gives learners autonomy. What it's teaching our students is that some kids are throwaway kids and some kids are not, to borrow from Carla Chalabi, right? So who's the throwaway kid and who's not? Yeah, and in the case for the previous example, the IDEA protects disabled kids, and therefore that's fine and great. And currently, yeah, we have a responsibility and a choice to actually stay on the right side. I was also at that January meeting. It was completely fakakta. And it was, yeah, the whole panel was all folks who were like anti-trans. It made no sense as an educator, as someone who like literally has like a postmaster certificate in like gay stuff. It was terrific. That's not the official title. As for excused absence, non-excused absence, yeah, if there's some magical thing going around every third Wednesday that like around whatever freaking time, 9 o'clock, kids are falling down, like I would see that sci-fi movie, but that's not what's happening. And I don't believe these are excused absences. It is a waste of everyone's time. And also all issues are trans issues, right? Y'all talked about absenteeism. You talk about test scores. Guess who's, yeah, those are also all trans issues, just as all issues are also issues about race and gender.
So next, Mitch. Then Holly.
Folks, I'm just a simple city parent of a D2 middle schooler. And if there is a single trans kid in the same grade, and there might be, they have about 300 a grade, so they might have a few. I would want them to have the same support and opportunities to play, make friends, and thrive that our own child has had. Not hard. As 269, Racing 248, let them play as who they are. Thank you.
Holly Spiegel. Followed by McKenna Santiago and then WKK.
Hi. Yeah, I'm back. I'll be really brief. Like I said last month, I'm a former member of a CEC. I 100% feel for all of you. I know how hard this job is. I know you would rather be home being with your own kids, but you all are here. You're here and you're being abandoned by your colleagues, and you have a right in your bylaws to vote them out, to say, we all agreed to these rules and we are showing up for them. Roll is taken before a vote. That is because when you are absent for a vote, it counts as an absence. And if you do not account for that absence, it should be unexcused. You have rules in your bylaws. You are obligated up to yourselves to follow them because you're all giving up your time. You're here. Let the lack of respect for all of you not stand. Y'all are showing up. Y'all are doing your jobs. They're not. They have disrespect for you, and tell them that's not cool. Thanks.
Santiago.
Hi. I'm going to be really quick. I just wanted to say I started coming to these meetings because I heard the CEC was trying to exclude trans kids from sports. And I want to say, having been here now, I can see you guys have a lot of other problems as well with the board.
And I know Len and Craig, you guys keep mentioning like, look, we're here, we're listening. And I just wonder why you're siding with Maud when she's preventing you from getting your work done. She's leaving every time, encouraging others to leave, preventing any votes from going through. I know you guys are here. I know you're here late. I know you all have kids. And I know you'd rather be with them. So I don't understand why you're allowing her agenda to derail these meetings when there are parents on this board who are working really hard, and there's a huge community here that wants to see the work done. Your work can be recognized if you'll just stop letting her, get in your way.
A lot of this will echo the previous two speakers, but here it is. Particularly to the two gentlemen in the middle. I've watched you pay special attention. I've heard you give the respect that all of us have asked for to each and every one of us. They're not giving it to us. They're certainly not giving it to you. I mentioned before that I'm a debate coach. I'm going to nerd out for like 15 seconds. In high school congressional debate, there is an adult at the front of the room called the parliamentarian. That adult's job is to know the goddamn rules. I don't know if this gentleman is your parliamentarian. I don't know if the president is the parliamentarian. But what I do know is that you are allowing ideologues, regardless of their position on the ideological spectrum, to run you dry. Run all of us dry month after month. Y'all seem all right. I don't know you. But at the end of the day, that isn't. Whatever their opinion on the issues is, put them on the record. Let this fine gentleman do his job or do your damn job, but someone has to do it. They're not going to. So please just do the job.
I feel low.
Still Michael Loeb. Jesse, good to see you. We used to work together. I don't understand what's happening. No, I really don't understand. And my child and his friends and all of our children don't have time to play games. I don't understand what's happening. To the point about rubrics, you haven't said anything about how standardized rubrics would help students. It's all been about competition and about admissions. So going back to what I said before about what's the purpose of education. What's the purpose of education? It's either to further concentrate power and wealth or to resist the concentration of power and wealth. The standardization of rubrics is not resisting the concentration of power and wealth. It's not for the benefit of students. It's about access and restricting access, furthering access for those who already have that. So I don't see that helping us, our children, and I don't see how leaving in the middle of a meeting or not showing up to a meeting helps our children.
That's Chloe Kari, followed by Joe Mike.
I'm going to be really brief this time, and Craig, I'm going to speak to you about something you said earlier. Somehow, when you're talking about public speaking at these meetings, you talked about us speaking about human rights as being somehow disrespectful to the custodians. So I think that there's nothing more disrespectful than to make them set up this whole room, do all the sweeping, do all the garbage, and then leave before there's a vote. You publicly rebuked us for being disrespectful. At the next meeting, will you publicly rebuke them for being disrespectful by leaving?
item. So I already spoke in the first session and I supported Maud Maron's resolution 248, and I oppose any attempt to deplete it or minimize it. Currently, it's up to 269, and whatever other permutation the opposition takes, I will also oppose that. As usual, a lot is going on disrespectfully behind the scenes, and the trans mafia tries to avoid me signing up, but I always sign up for the first and second sessions. Biology is not bigotry, and I'm glad that Superintendent McGuire brought up math, because simple math dictates that 1 + 1 = 2, and 1 + 0 = 1. So when the trans mafia tries to co-opt math by using the pronoun they to mean one singular person, it is completely incorrect. That is what infants understand when their minds aren't messed with. They like to come here and love bomb each other. That is one of the groomers 101 prerogatives, is to love bomb each other, and they're proud of that. This is Women's Month, March 2025. And by women, I'm talking about biological women. I don't like having to make sure that's understood, but I know the crowd I am dealing with. So this is Women's History Month. And to mark that, I would like to tell you all that it is the epitome of sexism to deny the separate existence of the female sex that excludes male biology. This is the face of the new misogyny. There is already an executive order, a federal executive order that supersedes state law that dictates biological males cannot compete in girls' sports. So there's already the federal law, and you will lose billions if you do not. It's already an executive order, and you will lose billions. And as I've mentioned in my previous appearances here, the big money maker is the pharmaceutical medical industry that gets to have $1 million for each of these kids that go on the medical merry-go-round. And Pfizer Pharmaceuticals is giving money to the Board of Ed.
These are the official list. Are we, Craig, are we using the lists that are not official? Okay. This list we have 10 thing hands up. Yeah, they're here. The other list. That I went over the 2 official lists.
We signed up for speaking.
So these are the second session 2 lists.
Yeah, we signed up a second session list.
Yeah, but I have the list that you have made up that I'm going to go over now, right?
No, it was on the official list here. I signed up for second speaking.
So you went on the first time, right? Maybe you signed up for the first
I signed
list?
up for both. Yeah, I signed up for the
I have
second
both of the second list here, and I had, feel free to look at it. This is the official 2-second sheet.
Sorry, we're not trying to be annoying.
Nope, that's fine, that's fine.
Sign sheet.
I signed the signing.
Yeah, I definitely signed up for the second. No, no, that's not me. I'm Mandel Ventura.
Okay, sorry, there's another paper here. Yep, please have a seat. Yeah, got it. So, yep, sorry, we got it. Annabelle Ruggiero?
I was second on that paper, so
Annabelle?
I don't know how you got the first person that paper, but not me.
No, this says Amy Neal, we went over.
No, on the paper.
Okay, so
Is this Annabelle?
yeah, I'm Annabelle Otero. So I had this whole thing written up about hope and how hopefully you guys would pass 269 and 270. But instead, I'm going to talk about the fact that, well, in undergrad, I studied chemical engineering. And if I went to the field that, that field traditionally goes into, I'd be working at a chemical plant. And if I just got and left in the middle of my job when like a reactor melts down, something that could happen would be people dying, like plants blowing up, spreading chemicals all over the place, causing cancer and whatnot. I know plenty of people here work jobs where similar things, if not necessarily similar magnitude, but bad things would happen if they left. If I left my current job, one of the things that could happen if something goes wrong is the global market crashes. So it's like, really, so Leonard, we're not mad at you. Great, we're not mad at you. We're mad at the people who are getting up and leaving, people who are denying you the power to do anything. We're mad at the people who are cucking you.
Hi, Council. I'll keep it to a tight minute. Y'all know I like to go quick. First of all, I wanted to object to Maud's narrative that the academic affairs meeting was a discussion. It was, in fact, a panel of transphobic activists, and I was there. When I tried to engage in the discussion during the scheduled Q&A, I was told not to participate. I was told to keep my question to one sentence. It was not a discussion by any terms I would recognize. And believe me, I would know one because I love meeting with the opposition. That's one of my things. That said, the CECD2 President Craig Slutskin and members of the CECD2 Council, in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, I'm hereby requesting records of the following. Absence excuses, including reasons for leaving early for Councilmember Maud Marin from dates March 1st, 2024 to March 19th, 2025. Absence excuses, including reasons for leaving early for Councilmember Allison Boyer from dates March 1st, 2024 to March 19th, 2025. And absence excuses, including reasons for leaving early for Councilmember Charles Love from dates March 1st, 2024 to March 19th, 2025. A copy of that request is being sent by email to you, sir, and to the superintendent.
It's actually in the press. Freedom of information.
Yeah,
it's like FOIL at DOE. I don't know what it is.
Okay, I will also make sure. Okay, I'm also going to make sure I forward it there. I am going to be filing a FOIA request on that. Okay, thank you. I'm also going to be submitting this handwritten letter into record. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You don't have to.
Jesse would know it.
Okay, next we have Hannah, followed by Shane.
I had a really nice speech about empathy, but Hannah, pronouns are they, them. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I attend District 2 schools. I have my PS11 shirt on from the 90s, but it's too cold. I went to lab and Maud's gone, but I wanted to talk about lab and the accelerated math curriculum because don't get me wrong, I got a great education there. However, lab is an extremely resourced school. It's pretty small. I mean, things have probably changed. It's been like a decade since I was there, but my grade was like 100 kids. And honestly, sometimes the rigor of the school was detrimental to students. Like it affected our mental health. People were stressed all the time. So when parents are thinking about testing and what it means to excel, is it something you want or is it the best for the students and for your children? And I guess I want to go back to a memory of when I started coming to these meetings, honoring the anniversary of Transformative Schools, our 1 year. I showed up outside of Clinton to a group dressed in white. There was pizza. There were incredible trans children who Maud's bigotry made cry, which is messed up. Megan was actually the first person I talked to, and it was super memorable. And when I asked how I could help, they put me to the task of handing out flyers about what was happening in D2. And so I was learning and being helpful, which speaks a lot to how Transformative Schools welcomes you in. There's so many of us, so take the opportunity to learn from us. We show up every month. We stick around even though we don't want to. We have lots of questions and sometimes we yell because there isn't enough opportunity to hear from us, even though we have thoughts and feelings that are motivated by care. And you're trying to cut down on our public speaking time, but we deserve to be heard. And all I'll say is people keep coming to join us. We keep getting bigger. We're going to outgrow these cafeterias and these auditoriums. And so to have to sit and listen to a lot more people because we have a lot to say.
followed by CD.
Hello. Glenn, you mentioned last month there was no nefarious intentions in Resolution 268 to support higher standards for testing into specialized high schools. I think you genuinely believe that. However, you are coming from a place of privilege when you say this. It negates three basic truths. One, despite living in a liberal city, if we can still call it that, given when fascists on this board are trying to turn New York into Florida, New York City, the school system still continues to be one of the most segregated in the country. Number two, some PTAs raise $5K or less per year, while other PTAs have a budget of $500,000 or more to spend on things like catered parties and fancy trips, while other schools are hosting potlucks. Some of these same parents who want strong testing are the same parents that use their privilege and resources with a zero-sum mindset to game the system to their advantage, including specialized tutors to get their kids into gifted and talented classes, sometimes testing multiple times to get in. That's not even mentioning the tutoring that affluent families can afford for testing into these specialized high schools. I had a learning disability as a kid. I had a very hard time learning how to read. So much so that it left me feeling wholly inadequate when I was into early adulthood. My parents couldn't afford specialized tutors, so I was left with what this public school could offer, which was inadequate by itself. So I have an acute knowledge of what it is, what it feels like to have no resources for this sort of stuff. I invite you to think about this when you talk about wanting to standardize testing, while not acknowledging the very real barriers that students face due to inequitable resources their parents, guardians, schools, PTAs, and communities have. There's so much talent that we are not tapping into in this city because people like Maud and Place, also known as peddling lies and coddling extremists, are hoarding power and resources to the benefit of those who need it least. I would remind you that you are an elected body meant to represent all students in this district, not just a few. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Clifford. I am here again. I am the proud parent of trans kid in District 2. Look, there they are. Okay. I want you to look at my child, okay? This is Chip, okay? And then my other child is an adult now, and that's Felicity. She's a trans woman who just modeled for Balenciaga, okay? Okay, what I really want to say is why? Why aren't you able to say that you made a mistake? Like, I make mistakes all the time. We all make mistakes, and it's our job to say, I made a mistake. So if you made a mistake to say, okay, I thought we were just like questioning this rule, but actually it's a little more nefarious than that, you can say, I made a mistake. And you can stop abstaining, and you can just vote to rescind 248. Really? Goodness, I'm showing you pictures of my children because I don't want to be here again talking about their mental health. Why do I have to come here again and try to convince you that our children are human enough to have rights, and that to have a law on the books that questions their rights to exist is damaging? That's that. It is damaging. And no one is questioning my right to exist. My rights may be taken away, but no one is questioning my right to exist. No one is questioning your right to exist. I don't know what it's like to be trans, and I'm never going to know. And it doesn't matter. I can know what's good for people, and I can know what's good for kids. Thank you.
Sandra left. Next is Jay Soto, followed by Evie, and then Michael. Well, Michael, you went already, and then MJ.
Good evening. My name is Jay, and I'm a 45-year-old proud trans man. And I was a trans kid once. Tonight, I'd like to speak about quiet exclusion. You see, when I came out, my 5 older siblings chose to stop speaking to me. I grew up in a religious household. They stopped speaking to me for 20 years. Now, I don't bring this up to highlight the length or the severity, but how quiet my family's reaction was. There was no slamming doors. There was no yelling. It took until I was well into my 30s to understand what had happened. I thought about it a lot. I had been shunned. Later, when my siblings and I finally reconnected, when I was a grown adult living my own life, happy, thousands of miles away, the guilt and hurt in my sister's eyes was almost unbearable. She said again and again through her tears, sobbing, 20 years is too long. 20 years is too long. Now, you may not think that this personal story relates to Resolution 248, but it does. Because when we quietly create tools for exclusion and we do not let young people be who they really are, and we feel like they belong, and we judge them and we discriminate against them, whether loudly or quietly in our families or in our schools, and we don't love them or support them, we create a world of hurt for them, but also for you. Please rescind 248 and stop this nonsense.
So, back as a teacher this time. I just wanted to plug some really informative writing for anyone who is genuinely interested about trans history, medicine, and trans life generally. It's actually kind of nice because I can steelman you on to the good faith people that are maybe left. So get out your notebooks and the excuses end tonight. First, I would like to plug the wonderfully eloquent historian Jules Gill Peterson. She specializes in transgender history, and her work focuses on how science, medicine, and race inform transgender embodiment. She has written 2 important books, including the very relevant here, Histories of the Transgender Child, a book that shatters the myth that trans children are new, uncovering a history where transgender children not only existed, but pre-existed the term transgender and its predecessors. Her other book, A Short History of Trans Misogyny, is particularly accessible as an audiobook and sheds light on the historical and ongoing animus against trans feminized people. Peterson has been on many podcasts to discuss her work, and this is a great place to start for anyone interested. Those podcasts include Outward, Gender Reveal, Red Medicine, Novara FM, The Dig, Queer Lit, The Feminist Present, and Death Panel, where she's a co-host. I'd also recommend Susan Stryker's seminal book, Transgender History, The Roots of Today's Revolution, for a good primer on what the transgender mafia has been up to for the better part of the last 100 years. Spoiler alert, we've been fighting for the same damn things we are now. Lastly, for a truly moving, personal, and in-depth account of what a trans life from preteendom to the literal deathbed, check out We Both Laughed in Pleasure, The Selected Diaries of Lou Sullivan. Thank you. If anyone needs these repeated, please come find me.
MJ.
Hello, my name is MJ, and I wanted to speak because my family has firsthand experience of what it can look like when schools actually implement anti-trans policies. My mom was a teacher at a private Christian school for over 35 years, and I was sent to that same small school from kindergarten through high school. She struggled when she realized I was trans. We had a lot of hard conversations, but at the end of the day, her faith was not incompatible with her being a loving mother of a trans child. However, she was told by the school that despite the fact that I was a known and respected member of the community, she was not allowed to ever mention me again. But she was allowed to mention being a mother to my cisgender brother. Then, even while my mom followed their rules to not speak about me on campus in order to still support her students, they later came back and said that she had to sign an anti-trans faith statement as part of her contract or it would not be renewed. She refused. So the school lost a beloved teacher with decades of experience and community knowledge because she would not denounce her trans child. The hate that me and my mom faced were always couched in excuses. That it was just a hypothetical so other parents wouldn't feel uncomfortable. That it was too complicated of an issue, so they're just being cautious. Or that the school board just had questions. These right-wing Christian schools were the test ground for anti-trans policies. It was at schools like mine where these policies were honed into the very hate that is now being pushed by this board in Resolution 248. Please listen to this warning and rescind. These policies will escalate and will only harm all students. Thank you.
Henry Gray, followed by Augie.
Hello. My name is Henry Grace. I'm a student at Stuyvesant High School, which is English degree. I'm a member of my high school GSA. I'm currently doing my Japanese homework, but it's late and I have a lot of work. I'm very lucky at Stuyvesant to have a very supporting community for trans and queer youth. We recently celebrated the reopening of one of our gender neutral bathrooms. Unfortunately, I was not so lucky in my middle school. You know, I had very close friends that were very supporting of trans and queer youth. But the middle school is more broadly queerphobic and didn't have open discussions and rainbows everywhere like my school does. And I understand the impact of not having like open visibility and acceptance of trans youth on the mental health of trans students. So I ask you please to stand resolution 248. Thank you.
There's a lot of Augusts. I had to make sure that they were talking about me. I have messed up on that multiple times already. This is a difficult. Hi, everyone. I'm gonna talk to this side. Hi, everyone. I'm Augie, the cheerful, loud transgender in the back with the snacks. Please come take some. I don't want to schlep it all home. I've been transgendering visibly for 13 years. One of the reasons I'm here is because my parents would have sat on that side of the table. When I was a kid, my parents took me to therapist after therapist trying to get me to stop wearing boys' clothes. Needless to say, it did not work. But I was taught that the adults in my life didn't trust me to make decisions for myself. I was taught that I had to keep my life a secret because the world wasn't safe for me. I'm going to read an excerpt of an email my dad sent me when I was in college after I told him I was getting top surgery. I would like you to take a moment and imagine yourself 1, 5, 10 years from now and consider what your life might be. Yes, your future is uncertain, but you are putting a lot of obstacles in your path. Now is the time to consider removing them. Here we are, almost exactly 5 years later, almost to the day. Thank you to my friends out in the audience, new and old, parents, students, community members, menaces, warriors, mafiosos. I have seen the future and it is beautiful and I have never felt more loved. I have never felt stronger and my path has never been so clear. Make sure you're in our Signal chat to learn about upcoming events with our collective, Aunties and Friends for Liberation. We added the end friends part, now everyone, now it's not a gender thing. We would love if y'all would join us. It's an open collective, the snacks are for everyone. And I didn't time this very well. I wrote this in the back with a lot of anxiety. Happy birthday, Aunties and Friends.
Next we have Lou Lux Griffith.
back. Y'all look tired. Honestly, so do I. You and me both, man. So I'm like Anne, I'm an engineer. I work on difficult problems with a lot of smart people. And I gotta say, seems like you guys do too. The thing you mentioned about people cheating the system to try to get to easier tests, that seems like a hard problem. And I'm an engineer, not an educator. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not going to speak on that. But what I will say is that if my fellow engineers walked out of the room just before we were about to decide how to solve that hard problem, I'd have some opinions. And I would most certainly be sharing them with my manager. And I would hope that my manager would do something to ensure that we could actually do the hard and important work that we are set out to do, just as you all are set out to do hard and important work and can't because specific people aren't doing their jobs. Thank you.
After that, Abby, Xavier, and Josie.
So we have 16 minutes left, and we have how many more speakers?
2 more.
So to the extent that you could be.
Yeah, you got it. All right. For the sake of this district and everyone who shows up here, including yourselves, you need significant bylaw reform. This goes beyond 248, beyond the upcoming CEC election, beyond all policy that you deal with here. If you're not a functioning council, you're just some people sitting behind a table. Unless you're having fun right now, please consider being tougher on yourselves and each other. Really crack down on members leaving early who can't even be bothered to vote. Curtail absences, both excused and unexcused. And if you're in such need of chair discretion, consider showing some and get rid of the people making a fool out of you and your colleagues. You have no power right now. You're just people right now. You're not a council. You are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people behind a bench. That can't be fun. It's 9:45. I think you owe everyone here some honesty and integrity. But if you're really not willing to do anything about the utter threat to local democracy being waged in this room, I only have one more question for you, as Maud Marin has deemed it pertinent to this district by precedent. Can you orgasm? Thank you.
Abby and Josie.
Hello, I did not plan to speak, so I'm gonna improv slightly. I am a teacher though, so I do this all day. I'm a high school, thank you. I'm a high school history teacher. Thank you. Unfortunately, I spend my days talking about the rise of fascism, which has been particularly not fun lately. Haven't been enjoying it at all. But there's some parallels here. We get it. I'm not going to go into it, scapegoats, etc. Okay, we only have so much time. It's really past my bedtime. My kids can't come to these meetings. Their parents don't let them just go to random things in Manhattan all the time where scary people are yelling about their rights. But I know many trans kids, and I've known many trans kids, and my trans kids deserve to be happy. And I don't think that some of these people know trans kids, and they're really different. Some of them are really weird. Some of them are kind of annoying, to be honest. Exactly, and that's okay. That's part of the process. God bless them. Okay. But they deserve to be loved. They deserve to be respected, not just listened to. respected, because I don't care if you hear me if you're not respecting my rights. And more importantly than my rights are my kids' rights. Right? They deserve to be happy. I've already lost one former LGBT student to suicide, and I don't want to lose any more. So it's not hypothetical for them. They know who they are. We know who they are. We love them. We respect them. And these things have lasting impacts, deadly impacts. And I spend every day, I work in a Catholic school in New York City. Right? I have to fight for these kids. Your kids are supposed to have it better. So do your job, because I can't just not show up at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning to teach about the Armenian genocide. I gotta go. It's past my bedtime. If I don't go, that's bad. I'm endangering children, right? So I'm trying to go to bed. I'm trying to stop hanging out in elementary schools in my free time. Please do your job. XOXO.
Hey, I wanted to draw some parallels between the rubric resolution and resolution 248. Firstly, the use of rubric, it's really confusing. I talked to a lot of people tonight that were kind of confused about rubric. Like, wait, it's actually the grading scale. It's not about how you grade an essay. I think the superintendent was a bit confused when Craig was asking him questions, and I think that's on purpose. Like, it's gender ideology or biological sex. You're muddying the waters. Second, Craig really only had hypotheticals to talk about. He's like, what if this one school somehow inflated grades, and would you be concerned too? And then the superintendent was like, I guess, yeah, sure, but what about the data? And then Maud was like, yeah, I have the data, but like, not right now, but like, you like, trust me, I have the data. And then Craig was like, to Elena, silently, not even into the mic, was like, you have my email. You can like, and I'm like, what about the 100 people in this room? Like, I want to see the data too.
When I get it, email.
Yeah, thank you. And then lastly, Len wanted to prioritize student speakers by shuffling around the order, but he also voted against making the student rep votes binding. So today doesn't make sense. Okay. If anyone's going and taking this train to Crown Heights, Brooklyn area, let's all do a group. I'm really tired. If you made a friend tonight, make sure you exchange numbers. Like we came out here all the way to 10 o'clock and we're all really tired, but let's make it worth it. So like make some friends. Let's keep it up.
So we came through the minutes, that's next on the agenda. New business, there would be no business because we don't have a quorum. So, and so I will, motion for adjournment. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Working business meeting.
I'm going to do a roll call for the working business meeting. We have to do the roll call. Allison is not here. Daniela is not here. Gavin. Charles is not here. Juan is not here. Soto is not here. Jessica. Sarah is not here. Sabina is not here. I am here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 present. It is not a quorum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members absent. I'm just going to say you have to determine who is excused and who is not excused. And our student members are not present.
We do not have a quorum, so we cannot do any business, although any update on the treasurer's report? Everybody, if you have any expenses, please submit it. I haven't really seen many expenses on this side of the room. If you have any, send it. No, okay. So business meeting, working business meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.